Hi, good morning. You're welcome to The Big Issue. The Big Issue is live on 97.3 Citi FM. It's your platform for incisive analysis and riveting conversation. My name is Selom Adunu. This morning, we have quite a number of issues for you, mainly in the energy sector. When we talk about energy, we mean power and petroleum. We have seen this week that the PURC has exacted some sanctions on the ECG, the main distributor for our country, for various alleged infractions. The ECG yesterday, through its board and management itself, have pushed back. They say that the sanctions and the fines against them are null and void because the PURC lacked jurisdiction to do so. What does that mean? Could the PURC have just gone ahead to slap the sanctions and the fines on the board of directors of the ECG that way? ECG says that they were not given a hearing. They were asked to submit some reports and some information to the PURC. They submitted the reports and the information required to the best of their ability. Without more, the PURC then comes out with a number of sanctions and fining the directors of the ECG board in excess of 5.8 million Ghana cedis to be paid, in less than a month. The ECG thinks that it's been given a raw deal, it's been treated unfairly. Its chief executive, Samuel Dubik Mahama, has written to the PURC, and the board of directors also have written to the PURC, both asserting that the PURC, as an administrative body, had no authority to act the way they did. We will look at that in some more detail. Also, this week, still in the power sector, the Amandi power plant was relocated from the western region to the Ashanti region. And that also coincided with the commissioning of some 110-kilometer gas pipeline by Gensa Energy. What does this mean for power distribution in Ghana? Does that mean that the people in the Ashanti region and some parts of northern Ghana will get better power distribution? How about the controversies that have dogged this particular relocation? How about a change of name? Was it necessary that the name of the Amandi power plant will be changed to the Kumasi 1 thermal power plant? Or is it just consistent with how VRA names its plants? Was there so much controversy or political controversy about this change of name? Also, how much did it cost for the relocation to be effected? We had some $24 million. Later, we had some $35 or $36 million. Which is which? We will try and see if we can find some answers on the show. Also, fuel has crossed the 14 Ghana cedi mark. What does this mean really? What does this mean for your cost of living? Have you bought fuel this week or this week? How did they go for you? How about the gold for oil? They told us that the gold for oil was going to help bring down the price of fuel. Is it in operation, or is it that situations on the world market have gotten too bad, or our own exchange rate matters are what are causing the problem? What really is the situation? I really want to hear from you. Also, I want to hear from you about your power situation this morning. Do you have light? Do you have doomsaw? What do you have? I'll be glad to know. Also, in the second part of the program, we'll look at an interesting thing that happened this week. The test run on the Tema to Pakadan rail line experienced some accident. A Kia truck was parked in the middle of the track, the railway track, and the train rammed into it, causing the test train its first accident. Who put the train there? Who put the truck there? Why was it parked there at all? What was the sensitization in the area? Didn't they know that there was going to be a test run of the rail line? I mean, things are really not adding up. Also, the gentleman in question, the truck driver, was jailed yesterday for 6 months. That's been quite fast, and that is what we like. Call it expedited trial. But he was jailed yesterday for 6 months, pleading guilty to 3 out of the 4 charges. And so once you plead guilty, the next thing is for you to be convicted and be sentenced. So that happened yesterday. We'll look at all of that and ask what this brings our quest to improve our real sector to. These are the matters we'll be concerning ourselves with this morning, and I urge you to join the discussion, which is live via our WhatsApp line 020-444-7033, and we'll be happy to read your comments out to the rest of the world. 020-444-7033. Once again, my name is Salom Adunu. I'll take a short break, return, provide you some updates, introduce my guests, and then we'll get the discussion underway. Don't go away. Hello, once again, welcome back to the big issue. Two major issues we are looking at. One has several parts. The energy sector. Talk about the energy sector, we mean the fuel part of it, or the petroleum side of things, and power. So there are two main concerns of any energy system or any energy ministry or any government in terms of energy. One, to keep the lights on, and number two, to keep the wheels moving. We'll deal with the two. So fuel prices have crossed the 14 Ghana Citi mark. We don't even know where it will get to by end of the year. Remember, some 2 years ago, it went up. That was when the dollar or the Citi exchange rate was creating some issues. We were able to bring it down to some 13 or so. Now it's climbing up quite steeply to 14, approaching 15, 14.99 at most of the stations. What is the future of all of this? Is it the taxes? What really can we do about this? Is it that we are the mercy of market situations? How about the Gold for Oil program? What is the status of it? Are we still doing it? The Bank of Ghana board says we should continue doing it. We shouldn't abandon it. What benefit is it bringing and all of that? We will want to seek answers in respect of that this morning. Also, the Amandi power plant has been relocated to the Ashanti region from the Western region. Of course, a lot of political controversy around the renaming of the Amandi power plant to the Kumasi 1 thermal power plant. What is in the name? Why the change of name? And why there's so much controversy? Also, how much did it cost us to relocate? Others say around $24 million, $36 million. Why should it cost so much? We will ask all of these questions today. And also, the PURC has been biting, slapping the board of directors of the ECG, the fine in excess of 5.8 million Ghana cedis. The ECG management and the board have pushed back, writing through the managing director and lawyers for the board to the executive director of the PURC, saying that the PURC lacked jurisdiction to do what it did. As an administrative body, it did not have the power to fine them the way they did. And also, the ECG raises a critical issue about natural justice, that they were not given a hearing in the matter. They were only asked to submit information, which they did to the best of their ability, only to be slapped with the fines. And they say that that is inconsistent with law. We will look at all of that. And also deal with the matter of the train accident, which occurred at kilometer 76 on the Tema and Pakadine line. How come a truck was parked on the rail line? Who is the person? He's been jailed though, but we will try to understand how it happened. The minister just described the situation as unpatriotic, and he had a few other words for the truck driver. But that is what we'll be concerning ourselves with this morning. All right, so let me provide you with some update. But in the meantime, the show is live and interactive. We are happy to have your comments on WhatsApp at 020-444-7033, and we'll be glad to read those comments out to the rest of the world. Now, let me provide you some updates. This week, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, imposed a heavy fine of 5,868,000 Ghana cedis on members of the Electricity Company of Ghana board who served from January 1 to March 18, 2024. This action was taken due to their alleged violation of Regulations 39 of LI 2413 which requires prior notification to customers or consumers before any power interruption. Among those affected by the fine are Kelly Gajepo, who resigned as board chairman on March 26, and the current ECG managing director, Samuel Mahama. Meanwhile, the Electricity Company of Ghana has asked the PURC to immediately withdraw the hefty 5.8 million fine imposed on its board members or former board members. In a letter on Friday, April 19, the managing director of ECG, Samuel Mahama, said the sanctions on him and the board members are null and void and must be withdrawn as they contravene the Public Utility Regulatory Commission Act 1997 at 538. Mr. Dubik Mahama said it submitted all the documents PURC requested in its March 28 letter and should have been given a chance to clarify any misunderstandings, if any. Also, the commuters at La Paz are bearing the brunt of a 20% increment in transport fares, contrary to a directive from the government and the Ghana Private Road Transport Union for drivers not to increase fares. However, while some justify the increase due to the rising cost of fuel and spare parts, others deem it excessive. Citi News' Kennedy Chumesi reports.
Commuter Michael Lepo, who recently returned from burying his mother in February at Aflaho, now faces a 29 cedi increase in his transport fare as he travels back to Aflaho from La Paz.
February, my mother is no more. I go to Aflaho. From February, I pick a total 65 cedis. There will how many months with this? Where the fare can reach 84 Ghana. It be 24 this president, it be too much for us. So it be true say they increase the fare, but make a GPR to people see stop for us. They know say the country is not easy for us, but make it manage everything small. But the way the fare go up no, make it sit to come down small. So everybody could make happy for our country.
His concern stems from a 20% hike in transport fares by transport operators despite directives from the government and GPRTU advising against it. David Agbado, spokesperson for the concerned Drivers Association, cites rising operational costs and government inaction as reasons for the fare increase.
The Transport Ministry is not regarding drivers as entity or as people in the country. Why am I saying so? You called the first meeting on last 2 weeks Wednesday. Drivers or the leaders were there. You weren't there. But when we infect the increment on last week Wednesday, the same day you call emergency meeting at 7:15, people were there. You had a meeting. You postponed it to Wednesday. After Wednesday, they went again. This very Wednesday. The minister were nowhere to be found. And it is you, the minister, that sanctioned the meeting. Why? Why is it so? Because the name is common drivers. So he's doing common thing with us. This time, it's no more common drivers. We are serious people with serious business. Because we buy the pass and we sell it to the consumers. And we will not buy and give it out. We are not running charity. The era of charity is over. Now we are doing serious business. So when the increase and we deem it right that this percentage we must charge, we will do so.
However, travelers like Michael Ajiman and Helen Mamley, also headed to Aflaho, find the 20% increase excessive despite justifications from the operators.
I don't go blame them. They increase the petrol too much. So them too, they won't do something where they will get them a profit back small. But it be too much. 20 cedis be too much. Or like I be like 5 cedis or 10 cedis there, you go feel you go manage. 10 cedis, 5 cedis go manage, but 20 cedis straight up there, it be too much. It's too much. It's too much. They kill us for Ghana here. I don't go lie, it be too much. 20 cedis, Abba, now Canada we dey go.
It's too much for us. This time things are very, very hard for us. So the government to see for things for us because the inflation is too much. We are suffering now to eat once a day. You eat once a day, even it's not a good food. You can't afford a good food to eat even once a day. It's too much for us.
Currently, major oil marketing companies sell petrol and diesel for over 14 cedis per litre, prompting fare hikes of 20% from La Paz to destinations like Ashaman, Tema, Pram Pram and Dawenya. As a result, operators explain that they can't wait for the agreement between the government and the transport associations.
We have increased by 20% to everywhere. We apply Aplau, we apply Keta, we apply Adan 4, we apply Sugakope, Tema, Pampram, Dawenya, Afienya, Spintex Road, and then Ashaiman, and then Ashalaja. Those are the places that we apply this very union, the highway branch. Before, the old fare is 15 cities, and 20% of 15 cities is 18 cities. It's 3 cities, so you add it to the 15, making it 18 cities. So it is 18 cities from La Paz to Tema, and then La Paz to Ashama is 18 cities. And then Pampram, you have 2 fares. Dawenya pays 16 cities, 50 pesos, but now Dawenya is paying 20 cities. It's supposed to be 20 cities, 20 pesos, but we are taking them 20 cities. And Pampram too, it was 20 cities, now it's 24 cities. Afienya, it was 17 cities to where the toll booth is. Then from there to the last stop is 20 cities, it's now 24 cities. So basically those are the prices. Spintex was 9 cities, it's now 9 cities and 10 cities, now is now 11 cities and 12 cities respectively. And Lungwatu is now 12 cities. The places that we apply those places and we have adjusted with the 20%. So if you ask me, this is the percentage. We are using 20% on all the stations that we are applying, including Ashalaja.
In view of this, commuters express concerns about the financial strain caused by these fare increases.
How much is the fare?
Former is 15 cedi, now we are paying 18 cedi.
18 cedis. That's more like a 20% increment. How is this affecting?
Oh, how for do? Whether we like it or not, we have to pay it, so we don't have anything to say. We are waiting. You know what to do. Whatever I'm doing, I have to increase my business with the work I'm doing. I'm an electrician, so as they increase the fare, when I'm going to work for someone, I have to increase.
All right, so you saw and heard that clip on how people are adjusting to the new situation, the increase in fuel prices, and how commuters or passengers will have to pay more, and the discussions ongoing between the Ministry of Transport and the GPRTU. So this is the big issue, 97.3 Citi FM. Let me introduce to you my guest for this segment of the program, then we'll take it off from there. Joining us in the studio is Abbas Tasunti, who is head of economic regulation at the National Petroleum Authority. The National Petroleum Authority regulates the downstream sector. Khalid Sharif is an economist and assistant professor for financial management, and he is also a member of the NDC 2024 election campaign team. Duncan Amoah is the executive secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Franklin Kujo is president, Imani Africa. And then later, Kojo Nsafwa Puku, one of government spokespersons on the energy sector. Indeed, he is Dr. Baomien's go-to person on the energy sector, and they've been doing quite some work there. And so this is the team we have, or the panel we have today, to help us appreciate the issues. Gentlemen, you're welcome. Abbas, welcome. Duncan Amoah, Franklin Kujo, and all of that. Welcome to the program. How have you been, Abbas?
I've been good.
When it comes to fuel prices and all of that, your name keeps coming up, your boss's name keeps coming up. But tell us what the situation is right now. At the pumps, I mean, some pumps put super at 14.99. I think for the first time this year or around the year, we've seen super outstripping diesel. Can you explain to us how that happens? But substantially, where are we in our fuel pricing? Why does it keep going up and it never seems to be coming down?
Okay, so I think it's important to know what is influencing these rises that we are seeing in fuel prices. Let me start by saying that these rises we are seeing is not peculiar to Ghana. If you check around, even the US, they are also grappling with the same situation. In Europe, they are grappling with the same situation of rising fuel prices, and every country is concerned because when fuel prices rise, it affects every other thing in the country, leads to inflation going up. So I think we are also concerned. And for countries particularly like Ghana and countries who import petroleum products in the US dollars but use other currencies who are not as strong as the US dollar, we tend to suffer more. And so we will have even a double effect in terms of the impact. From the beginning of this year, even before this year, we've seen the price of petroleum products on the world market rising sharply. Cumulatively for petrol, for example, the world market price has risen around 22%. And so this is one of the main reasons why we see the fuel prices continuously rising. The question is, why can't we do anything about it? The only way to keep a price from not moving when you are exposed to market price maybe to subsidize. But we are all aware that Ghana does not subsidize petroleum products anymore. We stopped doing that from July 2015 because of its own challenges. So we are actually exposed to the volatilities in the prices. The other key factor is the exchange rate. So yes, you buy the product on the world market, this price is moving every now and then. So when it's going up, you are faced with that. Then also the exchange rate. If the exchange rate is also not stable, and it is moving in one direction, especially in our case where it's been depreciating, I think, for some time now, then that also contributes to the rises in petroleum products. So the changes we are seeing in fuel prices, let me say the increases we are seeing in fuel prices, mainly as a result of these two factors.
So how about taxes, the margins on the product and all of that? They should also account for something.
Yes, so the taxes, the levies, and the margins are part of the formula. I didn't really mention them because these are not the factors that are volatile. They don't move like the world market price and the exchange rate. The exchange rate and the world market price change on a daily basis. So every 2 weeks, if you look at the daily price indicators that the MPA publishes, we publish this to give consumers and the public an idea of where price will go for every window. So you will see that for some time now, they rise. Now the taxes and the levies that you've mentioned, if we take the taxes and the levies in the price of petroleum products, they've not changed since 2021. They've been the same. So that cannot account for the increases or the changes in prices. So the changes that we are seeing is purely as a result of the world market price and the exchange rates.
So, so it does appear that there's nothing much we can do about the world market price and then the exchange rate issues. Of course, the exchange rate, we may do something about it as a country by building our economy to the extent that it's able to withstand some of the external shocks, etc. But it doesn't appear we are doing that well. It doesn't appear we're going to do that anytime soon. So it does appear that we are at the mercy of the exchange rate and the world market pricing.
So from where we come from as a regulator of the industry, MPA, our work is to ensure that the pricing is done appropriately. And where a government comes in to say that I will not let consumers bear the brunt of the increases in fuel prices, then it's the government that makes decisions. So every government makes these decisions based on their ability and their capacity to, let me say, subsidize. Because like I said earlier, the product price will not be stable. Exchange rates are not stable, they move. So if a country wants to keep the price stable, then it has to intervene, and the intervention is subsidy. So if you have the abilities or the finances or the finance or ability to subsidize, then the government comes in and subsidizes. And in our industry, the pricing policy ensures full cost recovery of investment. So if the importer brings a product or the private man brings a product and has to sell at 2 cedis, and you ask the businessman to sell at 1 cedi, then that 1 cedi you have to pay back. And so if you don't have the ability to pay that 1 cedi back or subsidize for the consumer, then you have to allow the consumer to pay the right price. Because if you subsidize and you don't pay the subsidy, it leads to another big problem, which is shortages, which you also don't want to face. So usually as a regulator, our main focus is to ensure that the product is available, because availability is key. If the products are available, then there's a major problem. It's available and you pay the right price, at least you can get the product and to move the economy. You remember that the economy runs on petroleum products. So shortages are not something we want to allow at all. So we will do everything possible to ensure that the product is available, and if it is we having to pay the right price and it's being priced properly, we as a regulator will ensure that the two are done.
So how about of course, some years ago, there was a discussion about hedging, so that what happens after we have hedged, we don't really care about. The prices could come down or they could go up. But can't we guess quite intelligently that given the political factors we have seen around the world, the prices will go up, so let's hedge at this price, so that even if it goes up for a period, we will not be affected by the happenings on the world stage. Has that been a consideration at all anywhere around the discussion?
So I remember some years back, maybe almost 10 years back, we tried to hedge. So the hedging is done on two fronts. You can hedge, if you're a producer, you hedge on the producer price. If you're a consumer, you can hedge on the consumer side. But hedging is also like an insurance. You pay a premium for that. On the producer side, because Ghana government has its share of crude oil, it can hedge it and against low prices for crude oil. But for the consumer side, government itself does not buy fuel and sell to consumers. So any hedging government does is more what we call a paper hedge. It's just going into financial instruments to say that I'm hedging and paying a premium and assuming that if prices go below this price, then the investment bankers who government has hedged will pay some money back to government. And government did this when it was regulating prices, because at the time, if government didn't have money to pay subsidies, but today the government does not buy fuel, or the government has never bought fuel, and you go and hedge. Mostly you pay the premiums and the price never get there. So it's basically like paying premiums to these investment bankers and making losses. So those times when government, in fact the Ministry of Finance does this, when they did it, they did so many simulations and they realized it was rather leading to losses. You pay premiums and nothing happens. So that's how come the hedging has not really been looked at on the consumer side. For now, I can't answer as to whether the Ministry of Finance is thinking of doing something like that, because usually do that when you are directly involved with the pricing of the petroleum product.
I see. Let me go on the line and speak to Duncan Amon. Hello, Duncan. Good morning to you. Welcome to the program. How have you been?
Salam, I'm very well, thank you, and good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure as always. What's your thinking around the movement of the fuel prices? Now we've crossed the 14 Ghana Citi mark. Soon we may get into 15. Cost of living, obviously will go up. People will have to cough up more for transportation fares or buying fuel into their cars. What's your thinking around the movement of the price?
Well, Salam, to the extent that you have 14 Citi 99 per Suez, you are at 15 already. There's a way people do pricing such that you would feel it is still not 15 cities yet, and that is 14. But that in reality, you are paying 15 cities for a liter of petrol this morning if you are buying fuel. This is not surprising. The forecast had anticipated this long ago. If you recall, the very first quarter of the year, the first 2 months, there was some relative stability in pump prices in country. But knowing that global economies will pick up and that demand is likely to increase, knowing very well that Israel's onslaught on Gaza was going to lead to disruptions in the Middle East, and now that Israel is also even having a back and forth with Iran, the Middle East challenges would affect the supply side. It is not surprising that we are seeing international market prices go the way they're going. And then you did ask how petrol for the first time is outstripping diesel in terms of pricing. It's simply because of the same demand-supply function. If the global economy demands more of petrol at this point, that is where the money's moved to, and diesel will probably not grow as much in terms of price. And so that again is also not surprising. If you read from analysts, you read from forecasts across the world. Just yesterday, I had some interactions with some of these energy guys in the Middle East, and already forecasts are that crude would simply surpass the $100 mark in no time. If you look at what Israel is now trying, the retaliatory strikes it wants to do with Iran, you simply are not anticipating prices coming down like in the short to medium term. Prices are looking upwards, and so this will now bring us back to your earlier question with my brother Abbas. What would they advise? What strategy should a country, Ghana, that is only a price taker, put in place at this point to, as it were, hedge or as it were, ameliorate or take care of the impact, of these incessant increases that we are experiencing globally. It will be down to strategy country by country. One of the strategies you did mention earlier would clearly have been the taxes, because petrol prices are not uniformed globally. Once you get the product in country, the taxes also play a key role. Unfortunately, at this point in our developmental, progress, where you've signed on to IMF and you're telling them you don't have enough revenues, it is becoming quite difficult for the state to even think of an intervention if it even so wanted to. And so the taxes may not come into play immediately. We can't do anything with the taxes. It calls into question what we can do. What we can do as a country at this point, Selo, is really to strategize on your currency. Is really to do whatever magic that had been done so that before, if you recall, before August 2022, price of petroleum products did spike. In fact, at the point, diesel and petrol were both crossing 21 Ghana cedis. And for some reason, we were able to cool the two off, right? The Citi had also depreciated to almost 17 Ghana cedi exchange to a dollar. The Bank of Ghana, for whatever magic, for whatever intervention they did put in place, was able to reverse the city's depreciation back to around 12. At the point, it was even doing 11.8, right? So if you do have any of those things down your sleeve, there could be no better time to apply that kind of a solution than at this point when prices are looking very warm, prices are looking to simply go up on a daily, and then you cannot do anything about taxes, neither can you do anything about the geopolitical, manifestations. You have no role at all to play in there. You have no hand at all in determining international market prices. What you can do is what I think any conversation should focus on, because at this point, give or take, taxes cannot be taken. At this point, give or take, we cannot influence Israel on Iran. We cannot influence Ukraine from bombing, as it were, Russian refineries. We cannot do too much with the geopolitical price control on. Is to ensure that your city is not doing too badly, as we've seen the past few weeks, where even in the middle of February, the city was still exchanging for around 12.5, 12.6. Suddenly, it spikes to about 13.6, 13.8. Once that happens, Salom, you are simply hanging yourself in the face of global market price trends. You are simply hanging yourself and throwing your hands in despair. Again, the other strategy, like the Nigerians clearly have demonstrated just yesterday, is to also suggest that as an oil-producing country, you are no longer interested in exporting everything that you produce locally. And so you are looking to a situation where the first for your crude, right, is in country. You should be able to allow your refineries to be able to access that crude in country, so that you don't export everything and then go back to re-import everything. That will take some Forex, that will take some, some profiteering in between. Nigeria is indicating that whatever crude they produce now, give the first offer to their local refineries, and it's a law that they are simply going to, move in on, because they know if they were to depend on the global market, the international market, they would simply destroy their own economies. What becomes our strategy as a country? Do we still allow our Jubilee partners to ship out everything, even in the face of a new refinery called Cento that probably will have some capacity, with a thermal oil refinery that we've not really done too much to Revamp, you have Akaba, you have Platon, those modular mini refineries around. What strategy do we kick in so that no matter what the international benchmarks suggest, we can be able to shave off some of those pressures? If we don't, Salom, and we continue to throw our hands in despair and suggest that everything is global and that whatever happens, we are simply price takers, so we'll have to be hit with prices. I'm afraid, Salom, the prices that you are seeing now may just be introductory prices. New and much more heavier prices would come as far as we continue to have no safety nets. That, unfortunately, is what we are experiencing now, and for which reason I started by saying what you are seeing at the pumps, for some of us, for our bars, I'm sure, is even not surprising because these were forecasted. You saw it coming. Did we put any strategies in place to counter them? Did we decide at some point that if indeed we'll still do gold for oil, what contribution would we want gold for oil to even make towards the local market such that it can contain these rises in fuel prices globally, such that our people are a little cushioned? We seem not to have made much progress on strategy, but these prices you are seeing, Salom, for most analysts, it is not surprising at all. And indeed, the wind blowing only suggests that prices will go up further in the coming weeks and months.
I see. Quite interesting there. Of course, you mentioned local refineries. Central, we understand, is just in the test run phase. So it's not really a safe, it's not really, how do I call it? It's not a proper alternative, for the want of a better phrase. Tamayo refinery, we don't have it. And so we don't have the same luxury of options that Nigeria, you mentioned, will have by making it law or policy that a percentage of what they refine goes to, or they drill goes to the refinery. How about this talk about fixed exchange rate? So for example, we fix the exchange rate for the guys in the sector so that when they import, we don't feel the brunt of the Citi depreciation or the exchange rate woes too badly. How about that strategy? Is it a workable one?
Well, Salom, my brother Abbas will tell you that option has been explored, where the Bank of Ghana used to, as it were, provide Forex cover for the BDCs in order to aid them not go so high on their forward FX rates. How much of the Forex was Bank of Ghana able to provide to the BDC market? When they started, they did almost 25% cover.
Okay.
Over time, it reduced drastically to a point where you cannot get even much with Bank of Ghana. The focus of Bank of Ghana at this point had become the gold for oil program, which Bank of Ghana had to equally put in money to go around getting gold, getting, a bullion dealer to now pay for your oil supplies in country. So our focus did shift at some point from just making the Forex or the dollar available to the petroleum importing markets to now gold for oil. The question again rises, if the Citi continues to depreciate and gold for oil continues to even work to bring in fuel, to bring in some reduced fuel prices, and the Citi is depreciating, you would simply have gold for oil program that would not be able to mitigate prices for you as it should. If we also continue to have a few taxes here and there adjusted upwards, whatever benefits that gold for oil could have, given your people, given your pumps, given your market, would simply be wiped off by these tax adjustments here and there. And so as to whether the strategy by the state, and for that matter, Bank of Ghana, should still be gold for oil, or should be, the pre-2022 September, October, when petrol prices had really gone up to about 21, whether we should not revisit that strategy at this point or we should still do gold for oil? If we are still doing gold for oil, what exactly are we tweaking and twisting to ensure that it has that kind of impact we want to have on pump prices? That should be the focus of our discussion by way of strategy. Unfortunately, if we stick alone to gold for oil, whilst the other key variables like your Citi's performance or depreciation continues to be quite high, gold for oil cannot deliver that which you would expect to cool down the market, as it were, prices. It can't. And so the strategy will have to be diversified at some point, and Bank of Ghana would need to review the exact impact it wants whatever inflows it is pumping onto the petroleum market to have. Do we go back to giving direct Forex to the BDC market at a certain predetermined rate, like you mentioned, so that the BDC doesn't have to worry about the city's depreciation? Because when I import, I would have the Bank of Ghana make available Forex for me to pay the supplier at a certain rate that I would not have to factor into my pricing to the market. If that should be the strategy, I'm sure Bank of Ghana would be able to step up their numbers as far as what it gives to the BDC market is concerned. If we also want to still do gold for oil, then you would need to consider the city's depreciation entirely also in check, so that whatever benefits that gold for oil could deliver, the city's depreciation would not wipe it off and even turn it to a negative.
Very well.
There's a conversation to be had either way, Selo.
Good. Let me speak to Abbas. Of course, I see the invitation to deal with gold for oil, which I'll come to. Yeah. But the fixed exchange rate, Duncan is saying, is something you've practiced before or you've talked about before. Is there a viable alternative to dealing with the exchange rate difficulties that the OMCs and the importers of finished products complain about?
So I think I mentioned when I was speaking that our major concern has been the exchange rate, because for world market prices, today petrol is around $900. We've been there before, but our prices were not where they are today. If you look at the exchange rate 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it's not where we are today. So exchange rate is a major problem. And that's why going back to strategy, what do we do? Because like Duncan said, we are exposed to all these volatilities. But I think I want to start that the exchange rate is a bigger issue. It's not a petroleum product sector that will fix the exchange rate. The exchange rate is a much bigger issue. So let's look at it within our context. What can we do? Because no matter what you do, if the other issues are not addressed, the exchange rate will continue to be that volatile and be rising. So what have we done in terms of strategy to ensure that in as much as the exchange rate, price of petroleum products are exposed to the exchange rate, we can in a way mitigate the impact. So you mentioned the Bank of Ghana auctions. Prior to April 2022, we never had the case that Bank of Ghana will organize auctions for the petroleum industry. We noticed how in the absence of a certain exchange rate, let me put it that way, a realistic exchange rate or an exchange rate that the BDCs know they will buy their dollars at, they speculate. So the idea of bringing in the Bank of Ghana auctions for our industry was to ensure that when BOG organize these auctions for them, they are assured that they will get their dollars at that rate, so that they stop using speculative exchange rates in their pricing. So what the Bank of Ghana did was we started this in April 2022. The first auction that the Bank of Ghana did, it met about 70% of the demand of the BDC. So this helped. But I think along the line, in view of Bank of Ghana's gold reserves and all that, the Forex reserves, they couldn't guarantee that high percentage for our market. So now they've pegged it at $40 million per month, which is a good thing to some extent because it's meeting about 20% of the demand of the BDCs, the importers. But you still have to go to the commercial, the open market and look for the 80%, so you are still exposed. So what have we done? When gold for oil came, we noticed that the gold for oil runs on what is called the Bank of Ghana's gold purchase program. So the gold purchase program, they buy the gold from the domestic markets, from the licensed gold exporters, and then use that to get dollars to pay for the oil import. So now the pressure on the Bank of Ghana's Forex exchange rate reserves has gone off because now you are bringing the gold. This gold is not, let me clarify that, it's not the gold, the pure gold from the major gold refineries. This is what they call the gold dory. So it goes to the precious mineral marketing company. These licensed gold exporters, usually when they sell them, they just take them. The dollars goes to the open market, it doesn't come to Bank of Ghana. But now through this gold purchase program, everything is consolidated, aggregated by the PMMC, and the Bank of Ghana buys it and then uses it to support the gold for oil program. So that's what it has run on. We realized that this gives That's the advantage the good for oil program has. It gives the boss, which is the operator of the good for oil program, a certain exchange rate. So it doesn't speculate with exchange rate, unlike the open market. So their price tend to be sometimes higher than the good for oil program. That's the advantage. So we propose that why not expand this gold purchase program to the private sector too? Because we've been told that there's enough gold doré to meet our 100% of our oil demand. So if it's expanded to cover the private imports, then now we have a certainty to our exchange rate. Then we stop speculating. So in as much as we cannot stop the volatility in exchange rate, at least there's certainty. So the good for oil program. So I think recently the Bank of Ghana has said that this good for oil program has helped because of the gold purchase program. So, but they want to move it to the commercial banks. We are told it's still at the consideration stage, so they'll come up with details. But in bringing it to the commercial banks, now the commercial banks and PMMC and MIF, that's Minerals Income Investment Fund, will work together to aggregate the gold doré from the licensed gold exporters, and then they would use that to support our industry. So we are just still working on this to ensure that our exposure to the exchange rate, which is a major problem when it comes to fuel prices, can in a way be mitigated.
I see. Great. Khalid, Sharif, welcome to the program. How are you?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, great.
Well.
So fuel prices have gone up. It's clear that it's something we do not really have control over. World market prices, depreciation, Citi, etc. The taxes and margins have been constant for a very long time, so they are not really the problem. What can we do? Because it exacerbates cost of living, and people will have to bear the brunt in this tough system. What can we do, and what should be the solution?
Well, thank you very much for having me, and it's a pleasure to meet my brother Abbas, and good to have you in studio. Well, I mean, if you look at it, there are a myriad of issues surrounding this, and I think that we've been having this topic for God knows how long. And practically, we haven't really done much to ameliorate this situation. If you look at it, again, from a regulatory point of view, from a market point of view. So there are key stakeholders within this sector. And as you could see, civil society are up in arms. You have the likes of COPEC and Energy Institute all playing critical role. I don't know to what extent Abbas and his institution or regulatory sector engages these bodies, but it plays a critical role. And I'll give you a classic example. And also, it is just not the exposure or the vagaries that we have of the international market. Sometimes as regulators, the actions and inactions we take also have a way of informing the market on what. And I'll give you a classic example. There was a news item a few days ago, I think you guys have backtracked on it, talking about MPA to set price floor for petroleum products.
Okay, we haven't backtracked. Maybe it would be good to also talk about it.
Yeah, it would be good to also talk about it, right? Again, when I saw it, I cringed a bit because I was asking, okay, fundamentally, what's the justification for this? And you and I, you would agree that this has an effect on the market because based on the kind of communications that went out, there could potentially be some hoarding because what the MPA practically was trying to do is, okay, we'll step in to set up a price floor ceiling. To my mind, maybe you'd explain much better because the communique did not do much justice to it. To my mind, what I saw was trying to happen is that you were stepping in to allow inefficient OMCs because the whole idea of deregulation was to allow competition. So the market takes care of itself. If you're not doing well, you die out. If you're doing well, you profit. But how could you convince consumers or probably the market that by setting this price floor ceiling, you are not encouraging or enabling inefficient OMCs? Right, so they were not doing well yet, they'll take advantage. There are going to be issues of racketeering, there's going to be issues of short demand, or because hoarding will definitely happen because they have an anticipation. They're in to make profit. So if this happens, and for me, there was an administrative lap to this because it was a very major statement or initiative by the regulator, and it was signed by a deputy CEO. My concern as a watcher of the market is that how important is this? Is it that there was a board disagreement that the CEO himself had to shield? Was he shielding it? I'm not saying that's what it is, but as a regulator, you don't create room for reasonable interpretations to set key decisions because they all inform market rationality, right? I mean, I'm not saying a deputy CEO could not sign anything, but that was a very major decision. And if you create that kind of room, all of these are a build-up to market decisions. We are all rational beings, right? So now to look at most of the issues that we talk about within the international space. Right, when an oil refinery, Abbas would know better, when an oil refinery starts to operate either in Algeria, in Houston, in Boston, in Nigeria, anywhere in the part, is in direct competition with an oil refinery operating in Tema, right, in terms of OPEX, CAPEX, and all of the cost expenditures that would have to go into it. So they're in direct competition. So to break even is very important. And how to maneuver around this kind of competitive market, which is in direct competition with themselves, is very key. And that is where we stand to fix ourselves, because we don't really have an operational refinery that could play an integral role within the market. So when we have the refinery debate, I ask myself, how this is even long term. It's not short term, because it takes a very long time to have a refinery. Now with Dangote coming upstream, the market is going to change within the sub-region. I don't know, at the time when Dangote probably was emerging, whether we really thought that, okay, Nigeria, I've always said that from the international perspective or international trade perspective, we've always ignored Nigeria, but they're a big powerhouse and a player, especially with the petroleum market. Was it possible that we could have had a JV with them as far as refinery product is concerned, given how close they are and the proximity we have? I'm not saying technically it's possible. Have we explored this? These are all issues that probably we could have engaged earlier on starting with, but that really never happened. So now with this price ceiling thing, how is Abbas and his regulatory agency, the MPA, able to convince us that they're going to curb illegality, right? Profiteering, they are not going to allow inefficient OMCs to still be doing very well or seem or supposed to be doing well, given that the price floor ceiling would be happening. Again, this has impact on inflation. It has impact on shortages. It has impact on racketeering. So my expectation as a watcher of the market is that the MPA, right, as a regulator, should be able to convince the general public and key stakeholders that, yes, this is a major decision we are taking, yet A, B, C, D would not happen. Now, we talk about reverse on the suspension issues of price stability, which again is a build-up.
So, yeah, I actually wanted to ask Abbas of those things. Yeah. Abbas will have to take leave of us, but we'll come back after a break at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
But I'll take some 10 minutes from that, so that after that, then he'll be free to go. Right. Let me hear from Franklin Kujo quickly. Franklin, I don't know how. I don't know how recently you bought fuel and what the situation was with you in respect of your pocket and everything. But surely the price increase is one that should get people worried, because it increases the cost of living and also exacerbates the general struggle people have around the country.
Well, good morning to yourself and my friends in the studio as well as offline. Look, so what I do these days is that, I wake up very early and then make sure I buy fuel quickly, because I hear that the laws of physics is it that tells us that once you buy fuel early in the morning, you tend to get a little more than when it expands in the afternoon. That is laughing at me. They are laughing. Well, so that's my coping strategy. But whatever it is, I don't think that will last long. What essentially it is that we are in perilous times, really, and I really pity the Ghanaian. I was listening to the voice pops in the run-up to the program, and people were complaining, and you can see these are deep-seated concerns. When I hear conversations around fixed exchange rates, I cringe, because I'm asking myself, how much dollars do you really have, or foreign exchange do you really need to have in order to continue feeding these economic logicality? You can't do that. Ultimately, it is the economy that we're supposed to be like a bulwark against all of these increases in prices. But otherwise, I think it's impacting everybody globally. Just that because we have not actually done ourselves any good in terms of building a solid economy, and then we begin to suffer all these consequences more than everybody else should be suffering. So it's sad. I just wish there was a magic wand to deal with this matter at front. But we have Kojo Poku on the line, and I'm sure he's waiting in the saddles to take over the reins of government.
All right, sure. I mean, so thanks, Franklin. We'll hear from Kojo and Safwa Poku. I'm quite careful about how I arrange his name.
I'll just conclude.
Yes, let me take a break.
Okay, sure.
I'll take a break. Abbas should leave before I come back, but we'll detain him here for the next 10 minutes because he has to explain to us the price stabilization levy, suspension, and all of that. And also, there's some issue with the cylinder recirculation matter, which he will have to deal with quickly before we go, because we don't often get them around. All right, so we'll take a short break. When we return, we will introduce Kojo and Safwa Poku to the discussion. Copex Dankanamwa is here. Samuel Ayepai, former MP for Ayeswano, is also here. and we will do all of that. I mean, of course, Khalid is here as well, and Franklin's on. This is the big issue. Don't go away. You're welcome back to the big issue. We are live on 97.3 Citi FM, of course, on Citi TV, on Facebook, and other socials. We are happy to have you this morning. Today we are discussing two issues. One very broad, the energy sector generally. We're dealing with fuel price increases. We are dealing with power issues, and of course, relocation of the Amandi power plant to the Ashanti region from the Western region, cost issues, change of name, and all of that. Why did we have to change the name? Is it really a big deal? What is in the name? Is it just consistent with VRA's naming of things, or it's because or it's in line with the general renaming spree we've been on for some time now, where we change names of universities and other key institutions of state? Is it really a big deal that the name is changed or not? What does it mean? Just politics? Or what? We'll deal with that. But fuel prices have been increased, exacerbating cost of living across the country. People are complaining that their salaries or incomes haven't seen any upward movement, but they are having to spend more money on fuel. And so once fuel goes up, everything else goes up. Food, everything else goes up. So that's it's taking quite a toll on people. And we've seen the difficulty with the GPRTU guys wanting to increase the fares, and Transport Ministry also saying that no, don't do it. If you do it, police will arrest you. Why would police arrest somebody when the person wants to increase their fare? All of that. Also, we will deal with the matter of the train accident. The Tema to Pakadan rail line had a new train on it running a test. And for some reason, there was a truck parked across the railway line. And so the train rammed into it, damaging portions of it. Fortunately, nobody was injured, nobody died. The gentleman who supposedly drove the care truck to the place is been jailed for 6 months. He was jailed yesterday. The event happened the day before, and yesterday he was jailed for 6 months. Pleaded guilty to 3 of the 4 charges, and so the court had to proceed to convict and sentence him. Minister says it was unpatriotic for anybody to do so. But what did their intelligence say? Didn't they see that way ahead of time? Didn't the train have any anti-brake system? It's not really coming together well for a lot of people. We'll try and understand what that is. All right, my guest this morning, Abbas Tasunti, Head of Economic Regulation at the National Petroleum Authority. Khalid Sharif is an economist and an assistant professor of financial management, also a member of the NDC election 2024 campaign team. Duncan Amo, Executive Secretary, Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Franklin Kujo, President Imani Africa. Kojo Safwa Poku, he leads Balmier's energy team. And also Samuel Aye Paye, former MP for Aye and Suano. You're welcome once again, gentlemen. So, Abbas, the issue about the pricing, we've dealt with that generally, but there was this price stabilization, and recovery levy, which you suspended, and people were happy. A few days later, you brought it back. I don't know how come, I don't know how that happened. You didn't think through it well. COPEC and Co think that you didn't think through it well. What happened? You go to a meeting, management or board, take a decision to suspend it, and later get a call that bring it back. How did it happen? And what is the price stabilization levy supposed to be doing that you thought was no more important, so you had to suspend it and bring it back? What happened there?
Okay, so the price stabilization recovery levy, if you look at the Energy Sector Levies Act, this is a levy that has basically two main purposes. One is to pay for the subsidies that we have on premix fuel. Premix fuel is used by the fishermen, the canoe fishermen. So the fuel they use in the outboard motors, that's what is called premix fuel. So there are subsidies on this. In 2015, July 2015, when the price deregulation policy was done and subsidies were removed on all petroleum products, government decided to maintain subsidies on premix fuel and RFO and fuel oil at the time. The fuel oil is what the industries use. So these subsidies, unlike previously where government did not use budget for subsidies and therefore subsidizes and didn't have money to pay and led to shortages, the ESLA brought in this levy to ensure that it accrues funds to pay for these subsidies that we have premixed for. So that's the purpose. The other purpose is to stabilize petroleum products, and we've argued that the use of the word stabilize petroleum product price is a bit problematic, because you can't stabilize the price as long as the world market price and the exchange rate move. You can only stabilize the price when you subsidize it, and then you pay for the subsidy, so it comes at a cost. So the name itself is something that we have to look at and make sure that it is changed to reflect its main purpose. But those are the two main purposes. So because of its ability to also to be used to cushion consumers, let me use that word, we once in a while, when we make our projections and we see that prices are rising, and we know that the levy has accumulated enough funds based on our estimates, because this levy is a levy that's managed by the Ministry of Finance. It's a levy, MP doesn't manage it. So when we do our projections and we think that it might have accrued or it has accrued enough to pay for the subsidies that are projected to be on premix for, we recommend that to cushion consumers, suspend it for a while temporarily, so that consumers can be relieved of paying this subsidy, so this levy. We've done it several times over the years, so this is not the first time it has been removed. It's been removed, brought back several times. So
but this lasted for a day or
two.
So
with this as well, so usually what we'll do is we'll request government to suspend it temporarily. So we had an initial approval to suspend it, and later we were asked that we should restore it. Like I said, I told Bernard the last time, we don't have full details as why we were asked to quickly restore it. So for us, we only it's a government levy. Government gives you the directive to remove it. If you remove it, like we've done several times before, when you are asked to restore it, we have to restore it back. In this case, unfortunately, it lasted for a very short time, so we had to restore it quickly.
Very well. Kojo Poku, let me have your first bite on this. Kojo Poku is an energy sector person. He ran a CSO, but these days he is a politician. He wanted to be president, but now he's helping Dr. Baumia in his campaign on the energy side and all of that. The fuel pricing, fuel prices often becomes a political issue, and they've had a part to play in all previous elections. How concerned are you and your team that the way fuel prices are going up, this may have a negative impact on all you are doing? And also share with us any ideas, if any, on how you think we can bring down the price of fuel. From what the MPA is saying, we are at the mercy of the world prices and the exchange rate issues. What can we do differently?
Thank you, and good morning to your viewers. I think I want to say good morning to all my co-panelists who are my best friends. I want to join Franklin early morning to go to a break to buy fuel, because we will get more in our car and then drive back. I think the most important thing it's colder in the breeze. So if you're looking for times when it's colder to get more, then let's go out.
You don't drive to a breeze and drive back. It would have been zero. You'd have lost the difference.
Anyway, look, my brother, I have always entreated everybody that we shouldn't play politics with petroleum prices. Politicians have a tendency to use petroleum prices for political gains. But it doesn't matter who is in power. There isn't much that you can do. There are factors that has affected the petroleum prices, and they are mainly and largely commercial. We have seen the drones and the missiles and all the fight going on in the Middle East. The tension in the Middle East is seriously affecting international prices of crude oil. As at yesterday, we woke up to the news that Israel have sent a missile to Iran. And in the midst of that tension, depending on what happens, if Iran retaliates or not, the tension in the Middle East is going to create a lot more tension in the international prices of energy products and commodities. The unstable Citi to the dollar has also not helped. Naturally, this is the time when we go through that fluctuation in terms of currency instability. But the Ministry of Finance has assured us that they have a handle of it. The Bank of Ghana has assured us that they have a handle on it. So we are trying to be positive. I don't think that, yes, look, when prices of fuel goes up, it affects everybody. So in terms of the consumer outlook, in terms of the NOKOBBO in people's pocket, what I call disposable income, is very, very key. And when people feel the pinch, the government is always the one that have to basically look at solutions. I felt it was very unfortunate when the Ministry of Finance, in their wisdom, think that the price stabilization and recovery levy has to be put back because of the reasons that were stated. I disagree with the Ministry of Finance on that, because I think the price stabilization levy is not a consolidated fund item. It's money that goes to a separate pot. It shouldn't go to the consolidated fund, and as a result, it shouldn't affect the general calculation of government in terms of the IMF program and all the things that the Ministry of Finance want to tell us. But like I said, that has been the decision. The price stabilization was restored. But Ghanaians need a way, and I think that if we are patient and the Middle East problem subsides, the crude oil prices will come back down again. And I think when we go through this challenging period of the instability of the currency, we will now see reduction in the value of the dollar to the cedi, and that will also bring some relief to Ghanaians. We have been through this 2 years ago when we had the petrol going as far high as 24 cedis, and it was able to come back down to 11 cedis. And it tells you the volatile nature of the commodity that we have. And as the resilient people that we are not going to be swayed by cheap political talks. But I also don't believe in quick fixes. I don't believe in putting the plaster on the stomach. I think that if there are going to be any solutions from my committee to solve some of these problems, is to look at the medium to long term to permanent fix. That is what we need in this sector.
I see. Great. Let me finish off with Abba so that he can have his peace and go and enjoy his weekend. We know that there's this cylinder recirculation program that the MPA has been trying to champion together with the Ministry of Energy. Yes. And of course, we saw what happened around the atomic runabout, and that was one of the main triggers for the introduction of this cylinder recirculation policy. It's taken a while, but we appear to be getting somewhere with it. Now, the LPG Marketers Association earlier in the week complained about a certain $80 per metric ton tax on the LPG, and they say that this is counterproductive, or it contradicts government's own objective of increasing LPG consumption nationwide. Where from this, and why taxing this sector again, a sector we want to expand? Why all of this right now?
Okay, so Selom, but if you permit me, before I quickly come to let me quickly address the concern he raised about the price floor and the competition we are kind of taking away that assumption. Yeah. It's important we clear that because consumers have to understand. Yeah. So just the response is that the price floor, the variations we see in prices today, is purely as a result of the margins, operating margins the marketers themselves put in the price. Because if the price formula we use for certain petroleum product prices, we make it public. And if you look in there are certain fixed parameters in those the price formula that applies to all companies. Where they have control over is the operating margin, because you put up a station and you have to cover the cost of operation, and competition comes from that. So in the price floor that we have set, that margin, operating margin, is set as 0. So all of you buy the product from the importers, you may get different price from the importers too, because they also have a price floor, where in that price floor for them as well, we've left out their operating margins and the premiums they negotiate with their suppliers to land the product, so that if they make any gains there or they get advantages there, they can pass on to the consumer. So the price floor excludes all of these parameters. It's only being done to ensure that in the principle of full cost recovery, those fixed parameters like the taxes, the levies, and the margins, which every OMC after selling have to go and pay, they should be able to recover those costs. But your operating margin, if he says that he can operate at a margin of only 1 peso per liter, but your operational overhead costs are high and you use 5 pesos, he has an advantage over you there, unless he wants to just also increase his to yours and then sell at the same price. So that competition is still there, it's allowed. And that's why you still see, even though the price floor has started, you still see variations in price all over the place. The price floor is the minimum that if anybody sells at, then it doesn't make economic sense that how are you able to sell at this price, which does not include your operating margin, because you have to be able to cover those costs. So that was just the price for to clarify that. So the competition is still I understand why some of the opposition came, because in economics, when you hear price floor, in some industries, it's set to protect the producer. Maybe it's just the choice of the name we gave to it, but if you look at it in our context, it is not being done to protect the producer. It's just ensuring that the principle of full cost recovery is covered. So the competition is still there on the market, it's not being taken away. Great. But the LPG CRM, the cylinder recirculation model, I think you mentioned that this is a policy that has been on the table for so many years now. And this policy is being done to ensure that we increase the access of LPG. If you look around the country, the consumption of LPG is concentrated in the urban areas. And this is because, first of all, they are the people who have access to it and also mostly can access it. Because the businessman, before he builds a filling station, which is so expensive to sell LPG, he will look at the demand. If the demand is not there, I wouldn't go and sink in so much money to establish a filling station where you have to take a long time to recoup your investment. So you've had a situation where the LPG is not getting to the rural areas because of affordability and access. Cylinder recirculation model also brings in safety, because unlike the current model where you have to fill the LPG tanker, bring it to various LPG stations across the city or across the town to discharge before you sell to consumers filling them in their cylinders. The cylinder recirculation model, the bottling plants have been introduced into the LPG value chain. So an LPG bottling plant is a big one, automated somewhere. Cylinders are filled through the automated system. And then what you do is you distribute these cylinders, 4 cylinders at what we call the cylinder exchange points. So these cylinder exchange points are cheaper to build, because basically you have, I'm sure you can show some of the pictures. Basically you have your land, you have a concrete, then you have a cage. So you just keep the cylinders there. And then consumers come and exchange empty cylinders with new cylinders. Also under this CRM model, consumers are not supposed to own cylinders. So let's say if you're a consumer today, you already have a cylinder. When you go, you just exchange your empty cylinder for a new one, and then you go. You don't have to buy a cylinder. But for those who are not using LPG today, whom we want to target and get them to use, they also don't have to buy cylinders. They basically go, the dealer or the distributor will have an arrangement with them where they check and ensure to have their details, so that when they take the cylinders, they are sure that they can bring the cylinders back, because they are not paying for the cylinder. So now you have a situation where you don't have to buy a cylinder to use LPG, and the product has also been brought closer to you, because now we can have the LPG marketing companies establishing more exchange points in rural areas, because it's cheaper to build now. So we get the product more closer to consumers. So that's the whole idea of the cylinder recirculation model. Now the $80 per metric ton is the bottling plant margin and the cylinder investment margin. Because in the value chain, one, you have a player in there, they need an operating margin to cover their cost of doing business. Just adding this $80 would have just added to the price of LPG as we have today, and would have made the product more expensive for consumers. Meanwhile, we are also concerned about ensuring affordability so consumers can buy the product. So what we did as a regulator was to look at how do we bring in other policy or measures to ensure that in bringing in this cylinder investment margin and bottling plant margin of $80 per metric ton, it doesn't lead to a higher price for LPG. So from last year, we engaged the industry, and we have changed the model of importing LPG into Ghana. Previously, you have the different importers importing smaller parcels of LPG by themselves, which was making them pay very high premiums, close to $100 per metric ton, to bring in LPG into the country. So what we have done from January this year is that we have brought in an open competitive tender system, where we bring in the demand of all the importers into one pot, and say that for, let's say, the month of January, we need 20,000 metric tons of LPG. So we put it up to open competition. And then any company who bids and can say they will deliver it at the least cost is the one who wins to deliver for us. Then the importers can get their products and distribute to their clients, their customers. So we did the first tender in January, and it was delivered in March. We have been able to bring down the cost from around the $100 to about $30. So this has brought in cost savings, so that in bringing in this cylinder, this investment margin and bottling plant margin, we started this April, we wouldn't have an increase in price. So the opposition from the association, as we heard, was that it's a tax. It's not a tax. It's just an operating margin, just like they also have operating margins in the price build up for them. Every LPG marketing company today has an operating margin to cover their cost of
so that's $80 per metric ton.
Yes.
But the consumer eventually bears that.
Yes, exactly. It's part of the value. It's part of the price, and that is why we did the tender, so that the consumer doesn't suffer for introducing this, because it's part of the value chain. But you see, the good thing about the CRM is that ultimately, the cost of running a cylinder exchange point, because if you are an LPG marketing company today, you are running a station where you have the bullets, the dispensers, you invest so much in building the station today. Now they can build the cylinder exchange point at a cheaper cost, which means that ultimately your cost of doing business will also drop. So even though we've done the tender to bring down the cost of importing the product, which has in a way kind of offsetted what has been brought in, eventually their operational costs will also drop. And then that also helps the consumer to reduce the burden on the consumer.
I see. Great. So no cause for alarm is what you're trying to urge on the LPG marketers, etc. All right. So thank you so much, Abbas. So we get into the other issues. Of course, I recognize the fact that I mean this matter must go around, but for want of time. So the issue really about the power sector and all of that. PURC this week slapped some fines on board members of the ECG ECG itself is not happy. The board is not happy. People have said, the ECG itself has said that the PURC did not have the jurisdiction to do what it did, and so the fines and the orders it has made are null and void in law. Let me start off with Kojo Poku. He plays in the sector and he's been playing in the sector for quite a long time. Kojo, in all your years in the sector, is this the first time you've seen the PURC do a thing like that? And I'll be interested in knowing your thoughts on how the PURC is gone around this particular matter, given all you know about the interaction between Gridco and ECG, which really began this whole thing.
Well, one of the point I want us to make clear is that this fine that was placed on the board members of ECG was not failure to publish a doomsday timetable. That is something that certain people have been in the media saying that, oh, see, PLC has fined ECG board members because they refused to publish a doomsday timetable. It's not true. The reason the members or the board directors of ECG was fined is because, according to PURC, they did not issue the mandatory notice for plant maintenance. So you remember when ECG came out to say that they have about some numbers of transformers that needed to be fixed, and that is why some of those areas were out. And PURC asked them to bring the schedule of the plant notices that they gave to those areas before those outages took place. And in the table, ECG did not comply, and that was led to the fine. But look, PURC is trying to do their work. For a long time, we've always said that the regulator should bite. We've always said that the regulator should be more proactive in trying to get ECG and the other utility companies to do the right thing. Unfortunately, we've heard the legal arguments that PURC that is not clothed with the right law to be able to fine board directors, but the fine has to go to the company because, one, the address, the information was to the company, not to the board directors. And before you can find somebody, you should give them a fair hearing. So the legal people are on it trying to discuss whether, and we've seen the ECG reply that they don't think that PURC is close with the right. But look, we need a regulator that works. Going forward, some of the things that we think we should look at in the energy sector is to put policy framework or the law in place to allow this to happen, where board of directors who are supposed to guide corporate governance and management of some of these institutions are guided with the fact that if they don't do their work, the regulator can find them. So maybe this time round, it's a signal legally they are not close to do it, so maybe it will be shut down. But the sector needs to look at maybe regularizing laws to enable PURC to do that in the future, which will let directors who are appointed to these boards not to just be happy that they've given a board appointment. We are going to go and get certain allowances, and they go there and don't do their work. We've had boards where the MDs don't listen to board members. We have instances where chairmen are taking executive roles when they are not supposed to, and it's a mess. Okay, so look, we need to look at and streamline the proper corporate governance to make sure that Ghanaians get the customer service that they deserve. So yes, never happened. I've never heard of that. But it's something that is interesting. Some of us in the civil society space, we are happy when the regulator does their work. As you've been talking to Abbas from NPA, they are very active in the downstream. In fact, they are too active in the downstream. So again, people are saying that, look, NPA is overreaching and undertaking some operational things, and they should be scaled back. So you have two far extremes. You have regulators who are not doing as much and people think they should do more. Then you have NPA who does more and people think they should be scaled back because they are now edging into operational areas. So it's a good thing. Regulators should have the bite. Barking without bite, it doesn't make it a good regulator.
Well, the bite must be grounded in law. So the board is not management, and publishing statutory, how do they call it? Statutory notice, which is required under Regulation 39 of LIF 2413, etc. These are management functions. So why do you bypass management and go and find the board that is quite problematic. And they explain that if they find the management, it will find a way and get into the tariff formula, etc. So the people will have to pay. So it will just be they will just have acted as a conveyor belt, more or less. But the propriety of it...
ECG runs on what you call the DSC, which is a distribution service charge. That is what ECG runs with. So if you find ECG, the distribution service charge is what they use to run their operation. They don't make money from anywhere else. So if you find the company, they will just take it out of the distribution service charge, which is money me and you have paid to pay the fine. So that is why, in the wisdom of your regulator, they were thinking that, look, why find the company? And if you find them, they're only working and collecting money from consumers. So they would only take the money from the money we have paid. So it doesn't hurt anybody. So let's put punitive actions on the people who have been entrusted with the work and to make sure it goes well. Bear in mind, the managing director is a director of the board. The chairman is a director of the board. So this 5.8 million Ghana cedis was to be paid by the managing director, the board chairman, and all the board members. So it was to basically get everybody to sit up. But legally, I think enforcing it is going to be a challenge. One of the things that Ghanaians, we are not short of is lawyers. You know, Kubik Mahama himself is a lawyer.
Yes, I know.
And most of the guys on that board are lawyers. So you have a tough time when, if you see the language, the Latin words that they've used in that their response, you realize that they've gone back to put their law hat on and reply that thing with all the legal terminology. So yes, look, now it might be a problem enforcing that fine, but I think that everybody has to look at how to clothe the regulator with the necessary laws to be able to bite. It's very important that the regulator can bite.
Very well. Franklin, you, of course, civil society, you always advocate strong regulators. I mean, regulators must be strong to sanitize spaces, etc. But it does appear that the PURC, in this particular circumstance, appeared to have overreached its powers or its jurisdiction.
Well, I think it was just a matter of time. When I realized that the ECG and the PURC were at war, more or less in quotes, I knew it was going to escalate, and clearly it has escalated. Question though you're asking, as a lawyer, you're asking whether the PURC had the authority to do what they did. Well, I can't quarrel with the way they operate. To the extent that they want to give us what I call making sure that the service provider is doing his or her part properly. I welcome any charge or any sanction that would endear the service to attend to its core mandate. So for me, I'm not interested in the fight that is going on. And I'm interested, as I speak with you now, I'm actually in doom. And I'm speaking like a cornered cockroach because I'm trying to use solar, and it's not easy. Very soon this will go up, and then we go off the program.
Oh,
but I'm just telling you.
I'm
interested in. I'm not interested in the fight and all that is going on. I'm interested in getting power, and I suspect that's what every Ghanaian is interested in. All these are side shows and side boxing. I don't really care. You know, ECG should do its part. Whether they want to describe it as doom saw, doom CAC, or doom whatever it is doom. As I tell you, within the next 40 minutes, this light will go up, and I'll go on the program. It would have been better for it. Yes, you not get me cracking jokes and all of that for you.
Too bad. We'll find.
Anyway, so
we'll find the ECG.
Well, we should. But I think, seriously speaking, I think Ghanaians are not interested in these fights. They are interested in just guaranteed service. Just give us the service. Tell us exactly what is happening. And I think 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I had my own friend, Ejapamesa, finally actually confess that, look, we have a problem with fuel, and it's money. How difficult is this to say? I don't understand politicians. I mean, and I'm surprised the ECG is also trying to take the fall for the government. I mean, these are not the times you should be playing hide and seek with these matters. It is what it is. Now, look, we are not dealing with this fuel prices and all of that. If you can't do anything about it, it could have been, obviously, it would have been better if we had managed our affairs properly, if Tor was working, is it Tor, is it Bost, or whatever they call it. All these institutions have been run around, and often you have all this chronic capitalist arrangement that doesn't really make sense. The last I heard was that they want to introduce private sector participation in metering and collection of those in ECG. Well, I said, here we go again. The Americans give you almost 100 million. Is it 100 or 200 million? That just do a proper divestiture of the ECG system. You couldn't do it because there were vested interests that were interested in getting a piece of the pie, and we are all poorer for it. Why should I be concerned about some bored people writing big English and quite nonsensical rain? I need light. Give me light, and I'm paying for it. I don't see why I should be sweating like a cornered cockroach here. You can see my face while I'm doing this. So please, I'm not saying we shouldn't discuss them, but you're a lawyer, so you like to chatter about these things. I don't think you chatter about it later, you go and sleep in doom so. Just demand the right thing to be done for you, my brother. That's all.
No, I mean due process. I mean there's what we call due process. If indeed the PURC, which is a creation of law and statute, is allegedly going outside of its jurisdiction or remit, I think it's also part of the rule of law to ensure that they play within the space. Say that again.
Maybe they are just frustrated. Look, I'm not trying to get into anyone's corner. I mean, the Big is a nice guy, and I think he's been a nice guy until now. I think he should just allow things to play the way they are playing. He shouldn't be like a Hercules, take over every problem of the government when it comes to power sector. He will learn pretty shortly that he'll be a loner. I think it is important that but what I'm making is that all this would not have escalated to where it has gotten to if ECG and PURC had actually understood each other, right? If that had been done, I'm not saying that what PURC was trying to basically show that they have the cratchy powers. That's not what I'm saying. But if they thought that they could explore the law in order to make it look as if ECG management will not budge, then we'll go after the board. Well, maybe they are within the realms of law to do so. They should probably go to court. But you see, while we do all of this fights and go to court, what is this serving me? As a productive person in this economy, my productivity gets dimmed and diminished because I can't have decent power to do work with. And you as well. And as many other people as well. So what is this fight really about? You get my point. I mean, at the end of the day, give me power. You know, my colleague Bryce Simmons has written a beautiful article. I think power has gone into their heads. It looks as if power has really gone into their heads and has eviscerated the normal course of, sensible thinking to give us power 24/7. That's what matters.
I see.
This power play is not helping anybody.
I see. Duncan, you speak for the consumers. What are the consumers saying? The consumers, of course, I had doomsaw the whole of last night. When I got home around 10 or 11, the lights were off, and I was told it was from the morning. 8 o'clock, came back around 10 o'clock, took it back around 12, came back around 5, around 6, they took it back, and it came back this morning at 6 o'clock. So it appears the hustle is real. Duncan, what have the consumers been saying? I'm a consumer too. What have we been telling you?
Well, I'm a consumer. Duncan is not seated right now. I can tell you what I want to tell you. I'm sure he'll come and look. So you see, as it keeps going, you just explain an experience, right? Within the space of 2 or 3 hours, this thing keeps going on and up like as if you are in a disco at a disco, and all of that happening. How does all of this help us in putting forward a productive foot forward? I mean, that's what we need. People don't realize that during NDC days, I mean, even though it was predictable, how much GDP were we shortchanged? I think it was 3 or 4%. Forgotten what percentage it was. Could you probably remind us how much we lost in terms of the growth of the economy? And we are losing this, and this time it's even worse. What makes this worse really is that it's not as if we are not going to find ways of generating the power. The machines and things are there. Uniska. What did I hear somebody say? The Uniska also a drone yet. You don't have money. You are fighting. You are engaging in all this shadow boxing to show that you are muscular. Use the muscles to think and then give us power. That's what matters. All this back and forth with light off here, Charlie, it's not helping. Let's deal with the matters. 2015 is not 2023, 2024 is not 2020, 2015. We make mistakes going forward. We don't make mistakes, obviously, going backwards. And I think it's important that we settle this conversation about whose doomsaw lasted longer or not. At this juncture, critical juncture, the value of doomsaw as it is affecting me right now will probably much more than I would have experienced 4 years ago. Or maybe my productivity has increased. If I'm supposed to do some essay, write an essay and edit an essay for someone who pays me about $150 an hour. Now I can't do that because I may probably get $30. And I'm wondering. And then you are sitting down writing letters, long letters, and defending yourselves and saying, I'm a cratchy. When you're cratchy, you are poverty of the brain. Just get out of there and fix the power, my brother.
Very well. Honorable Samuel Pay.
Yes.
Yes. The name is a local name, right?
It's a local name.
It's like Pay.
Yeah.
Right. So doomsaw is back, and PURC and ECG and Co are involved in a tussle. It used to be Gridco, but doomsaw is back. The experience is real. So I don't see what really your people are telling us. What are you telling us? Doomsaw is back.
Let me first say good morning to your viewers and my co-panelist Duncan. I've been hearing him.
No, this is Khalid Sharif.
Okay.
Yeah, Duncan is on Zoom.
Yes, I've been hearing him on radio and TV. And also Franklin.
And Kojo Poku is also there.
Yes, Kojo Poku. Doomsaw is not back. Yes.
So what I experienced yesterday is not doomsaw. And it's not just been yesterday. It's been
I experienced same.
Yesterday.
Yes. Where I live yesterday, during the day, we had light off, and then the night too, around 10, 11, the lights were off. So, yes, we are having some power outages. But
they've been quite consistent.
But according to the Ministry of Energy, the ECG, and the power producers, I'm talking about Gridco and other, they are saying that it is really not doomsaw.
So,
they have some technical challenges.
What is doomsaw?
Well, the doomsaw act is being defined is in the situation where we don't have enough power to produce or to supply to the exact peak demand that we needed. So we have short of power production. For instance, as we speak, our peak production is around 3,600 megawatts. And what we get is a little bit below that.
So that's a shortfall.
If you had a shortfall. But what they are saying is that the shortfall is not as a result of not having an installed capacity. The calculation is having about 5,000 plus installed capacity.
So the capacity is there?
The capacity, then we have the available capacity. See, there's the difference between installed capacity and available capacity.
Okay.
So the installed capacity is what we have installed. Available capacity is installed capacity minus generators or turbines that needs or that are under repairs and maintenance. Minus other plants which are at fault, and because of that, they cannot produce power. Minus shortage of fuel. If you don't have enough money to purchase fuel to power the turbines.
So we have the installed capacity.
Exactly.
The available capacity, in your view, is where the problem is.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the plants are undergoing maintenance. We may not have enough money to buy
exactly.
fuel. So that is...
But what the ministry is telling us that the issue is not about we not having money to buy fuel. The issue is about some of the plants are under maintenance, others are faulty and under repairs, and ECG is also telling us they have some challenges on their transformers they have to work on.
And all of these have conspired to happen at the same time.
Oh, yes, that's how it happens.
They all happen at the same time.
The only thing that I say is it shouldn't have been part of it is the transformer issue. But that is why you must always have more installed capacity than your demand. Because at every particular time, you are going to have some plants not at work or not producing power. So you must always have more than what you need. So what is happening it's not actually the doom so that we have understood that we have this shortfall. Let us plan and share it.
No, but if you're telling me that some plants
are
not working.
Because the reason why I'm saying this is that look at what happened. I live at Taifa. In the day we're not having power. It came around 6 o'clock. And then we had challenge with the transformer. I think the transformer was overloaded and tripped off. So it went off again around 10, 11 p.m. So if it is the doom so, then I say when it came as this, we should continue to have power until maybe the next day. But because there was an overloaded transformer.
Very good point. So
that is what I'm saying. It's a mix of this.
Very good point.
That is giving us the challenge
that's what we are calling for. So that when the light went off at 6, we know that to come back at 6 a.m.
Exactly.
So you can plan. In that case, you had a timetable. But now you don't have a timetable. And Gridco are saying that they tell ECG that this is the shortfall. ECG also says that they tell them about an hour to time, and so they are unable to do what they have to do, notifying the public, etc. Gridco sees that if nothing is done, the whole system will be compromised. So they take off, a particular side of town.
That is why the minister is saying that.
That we should bring our own timetable?
No, that if it is the fact that we needed 3,600 megawatts, we have 3,000. We know we have a shortfall of 600. Then we can prepare a timetable to meet the 3,000 megawatt that we have. This is a situation where at the point in time, we may have a transformer not being at work, a transformer being overloaded and trip off. So when you draw the timetable, like what happened at Taifa, that you are going to have light from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or light out at 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and at 6 p.m. you have light, and there's a transformer for the trip off, and then another, the light went out again. Then of course, it is not going to be in line with the timetable that have been provided for us. But what is saying that the issues is being resolved, and very soon, looking at it now, they are saying that we have a Twin City a power project that is completed. It's going to give about 200 megawatts within the end of this year. The PURC. The BUI solar power is also giving us 50 megawatts.
Yeah, that's
making it 250.
Yes.
So with this coming on board to join the grid, the
PURC in their statement, in their order, their order of 15th April, said that the attribution of some of the outages to transformer overload was not factually accurate. So that's a PURC. That's the sector regulator, the commercial or economic regulator, telling us this. So they don't agree with the position being espoused by the ECG that 600 and whatever number of transformers were 40 or
but listening to them, they haven't ruled that out also.
Yeah, but it says factually inaccurate.
It means that it's not the only. But that is why when I was talking, I said in a situation that I have 5,600 plus installed capacity, some may be periodic maintenance, some may be 40 that's under repairs, some may be the fact that they
I just want to establish
in addition
I just want to establish that, for example, you have two plants which are 40, so undergoing maintenance. You know that these two plants contribute, let's say, 300 megawatts to the grid. Now this is off. So if this is off, that's a shortfall.
Exactly.
So why don't you prepare a schedule to accommodate this 300 megawatt shortfall?
And the minister is saying that the ECG
the minister didn't say anything. The minister said we should prepare our own timetable.
That was just.
It's a comment you subscribe to.
It was just cracking jokes with.
Oh, that's a joke. You see, that was a joke.
Oh no, you know it. Honorable.
Oh, that was a joke.
In the in normal way can just crack jokes for you to laugh. But the actual fact is, the fact is that yes, we haven't gotten to a point where we need.
No, but it didn't look like a joke. In fact, he said those who were calling for the timetable were wishing evil.
I have listened to that tape.
He said we're wishing evil.
I don't understand why he came out.
Or maybe he's joking with Ghanaians.
No, with the journalists.
No, he's joking with us.
No, not Ghanaians.
He's joking with us.
The journalist decided to pick that out of all what he said.
Sensitive issue.
Yes, all what he said.
I mean,
and then pick it.
He said we should prepare our own timetable.
Why,
and you see,
why are you so? He said
no,
so many
because
things.
I felt.
So why are you so?
Look at what I've
interested
just
in
narrated.
the jokes that he was
That's
just
not a joke.
cracking.
Look at what I went through yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, I went home very late, very tired, wanted to sleep. I couldn't sleep very well because the place was warm and things because of doom. If I had known that I was going to be off that night, maybe I'd have stayed in town for long.
If you listen to the minister, he said so many things. He gave reasons why the outages are there. That one, the routine maintenance, repairs.
Yeah, but I'm saying that the issue of the routine maintenance, I don't dispute that. But I'm saying that if you know
also
that,
said that
this
very
plant is
soon,
going to be off.
very soon, this outages is going to stop.
Okay.
And then while he was ending, he was cracking through the night and said, then prepare your, somebody asked, when are we going to have the timetable? He said, come with your own timetable. And then we've picked him out of contest. And
no. If you say so, the people will come after you because the people are not happy.
On that, nobody's happy. I'm not happy. I slept in
the people are not happy.
In the deep heat.
So if you are trying to make light,
so
this thing here,
I am also not happy equally. I'm a consumer myself.
Yes.
The fact that I also.
But you're a consumer with swag.
And
you're a consumer with swag.
No, I'm a consumer, and I slept in darkness last night. Oh, you see, I don't have, and even if you have, if the light goes off at night and you have to get up, if you don't, I don't like that automatic changeover. And when the current goes down a bit, you see this changing over. So you have to get up in the night.
You like your sleep. You don't go on.
So I don't have a genset.
But that's fine.
We are all not happy. We are all consumers.
So the point has been made.
And the good news is that we are saying that we are going to have a twin city power, about 200 megawatts, which is ready. We are going to have the solar.
When is that happening?
Come again.
When is that happening?
Oh, by the end of it's completed. It's left with connecting it to
end of this month.
End of this month.
If possible, it should.
April.
Because in Kumasi, when we sent the American plan to Kumasi, to report from Kumasi from yesterday or 3 days ago, he said that the power is stable. So having this also connected to the national grid by the end of this month, or maybe I don't want to give a timetable because I don't know exactly when it is completed, all right, but they need to connect it into the national grid.
Very well.
And 200 plus 50 making 250 is going to resolve this.
Well, we hope so. All right. Khalid, your take on this PURC ECG tussle and the fact that Honorable
says
there's no doom so.
Well, I mean, if you say there's no doom so, there's not anything we should fret about or even crack sweat about, because we all know what we are experiencing. So if you say there's no doom so and you slept in darkness to turn up in studio, then it's on you. But we all know what it is, and we all know what we are experiencing. And but you see, Salam, there's a fundamental thing currently happening in this country. So when we talk, there's something we call crisis intelligence. And we talk about crisis intelligence, we're talking about when you are in a crisis situation, be it management, board, what have you, you have the intelligence to navigate without causing much more acrimony or probably stirring yourself more or digging a rabbit hole. But I think what is currently happening between the PURC and the ECG is that the ECGs engage in digging, or they are in a big rabbit hole. Why do I say this? You are a provider of an essential service, which is electricity, right? And you look at the mandate of the PURC, right? This is a constitutional clouded body, right? That has the mandate to do what it has to do, backed by law. It reports to Parliament and reports to the Office of the President. Now, if you look at the core functionalities of the PURC, they are meant to protect the interests of consumers, right? And providers of utility services, which includes ECG. Again, they are meant to provide fair competition among public utilities. Now, the interesting thing is, or where there's a problem, is that ECG is probably enjoying a monopoly in terms of utilities. It's not like a market where you have an oligopoly or more of providers.
There is Netco.
There's Netco, but it's more like
there are a few bulk.
Yeah, there are a few bulk, but it's not anything largely or significant. So when I say they are enjoying a near monopoly, I mean they are really having a bigger share of the market, and Netco is taking care of the northern sector. So with all of this happening, you would realize that the PURC's approach, right, to actually drop in the hammer, it's going to be limited because of the kind of clouds ECG has. But I want to take this opportunity to commend Ismail Aka and his group for what they have done. right? It's
even
a step.
Even though it's
I'm still coming to right. Even though people will come to the illegality and all of that, and where they would also have done take their boxes or probably dot their I's and cross their T's before actually coming out, right? So you'd realize that then they are already saddled with the problem of regulating that sector, more so a behemoth like ECG, right? And it's not a PLC where we would say probably there would be more regulations because it's still a limited liability company with government owing 100% shares, if I'm right about that. So it also advises on issues of in respect to public utilities. So, but you would realize that these are core mandates that ought to happen. But now the fundamental question is that for it to have that strength to do that, did it actually take the right approach in suing the board? And that brings us to the corporate governance of it. Now, I would want to believe that the PURC has a legal department, and for that matter, it has lawyers or in-house lawyers. What advisory went into, right, the decision that was taken, right? What did this legal team advise if it was prudent enough to sue the board? But then again, you look at it, corporate governance is always an issue, given how we appoint members into the board. I've always had a concern. I mean, we fretted over this issue of appointing a deputy minister as a board chair. And this deputy minister has a direct responsibility, a mandate with ECG. So now, in other sense, within the corporate governance realm, you would say what we call what CEO duality in and of itself, where you have so much power in a board chair because he is minister, member of the executive, and he is chairing this key or critical institution, which is within his purview. That is problematic, and that gives him much power. So for such an entity to go head to head, right, with a regulator, you would see that there would actually be a bit of intimidation, as you'd see in the letters flying, people trying to play legal gymnastics with it, but it's beyond that. We ought to respect the average consumer. So then you ask yourself, okay, within the setup of the board, again, where you have the MD that sits on the board, among other things. So the corporate governance structure in and of itself is set to fail. So was the board the right target for the PURC to go after? I don't know. Right, but that's why I'm saying that they have a legal department who ought to have done its work well to cross its T's and dot its I's. Now, for a regulator to come out this strong and be shot in the foot in this regard, I think this is where Ishmael and his team need to really step up the game. Because as a regulator, when you come with your hammer and you drop it, it has to have some impact, not the backlash. But then we have to cut them some slack here in the sense that it's the first time you're having an independent regulator going after a government agency in this regard. So obviously they're meant to make mistakes. So let's see this as future proofing.
Very well.
It's a test case, and probably they might come back much more stronger to deal with this issue.
Do the outages for me now.
Right. In terms of the outages, I mean, we are in pure crisis, whether we like it or not. Now, even if you say maintenance, routine maintenance, I remember, Selam, when we were kids, right, it wasn't the day of the internet and all of that. Even when they were going to power outages, those information vans went around communities announcing that there will be routine maintenance. That was some respect for consumers at the time when we were even in the analog ages. Now we're in a digital age, so you ask yourself whether it's retrogression, it's some kind of progress we've had, and so the sort of managerial skills that we're actually exuding at these critical state institutions that are utility providers or providers of essential services. So you ask yourself, how long is this routine maintenance? This has been going on for close to a year now. So what kind of routine maintenance are we talking about? I mean, what's it? Salam, it's been going on to close to a year, not 6 months. Right? Yeah, we can.
It started later part of
right.
Year.
So, and if we're talking about overload of transformers and the likes of, it's the mandate of the ECG to maintain these transformers. So you see, when we look at Dumso, it's a cocktail of issues, inefficiencies, funding issues and the like. So if you don't have enough cash, right, to service your transformers or to maintain and replace old transformers, that in of itself is crisis. And what is Dumso? Dumso is power crisis. So if we're having these things and we turn around to play semantics with it, then it doesn't help anyone, right? Can we come out up front? You see, publishing a timetable is not accepting that, okay, we've been defeated, there's Dumso, but at least allow people for planning purposes. People are running businesses, right? You turn up to a business.
You can still have power crisis without Dumso. The fact that...
No, I mean, the on and off.
The on and off is the Dumso. Are we experiencing on and off? Yes, we are. So what's the debate about Dumso?
Because the DUMSO is political.
It's political. Yeah, it's well.
The DUMSO is political.
The terminology. Okay.
The DUMSO is political.
It's a terminology that is being defined.
So can we have it this way?
When you look at the definition of DUMSO, you can see clearly that yes, we are
experiencing power outages.
Power outages.
Is that what you want?
It is not.
So how do you translate power outages?
That is what I said. That I am not happy. I am also in the same situation. But he made mention of PURC trying to break fines or want of better words, maybe administrative charges against the board of ECG. I was the chairman for Rules and Transport Committee when in Parliament, when the Road Safety Authority Act was passed. I led the passage of the act, and in there we have fines or administrative charges that the regulator can slap on institutions like DVLA, STC, Metromas, GPRTU, VIP, and the charges go to the management, those that perform day-to-day activities of the company. Yes. We were here when a CEO of a bank was sent to court. People were asking, why not the board chairman? They said, no, it is the CEO who is managing.
What I was saying this was that the board, as I said, corporate governance still appear very nascent.
I agree with what you are saying.
Yeah, so the board is a control. People would also deem that the board is a controlling mind.
No, but it's a management issue.
Yes, it's a management issue.
You see, and most of this management things are prepared for management and sent to the board for approval. Yeah. So if there's any fine, the fine should come to the management.
For example, you say they should submit bank.
I mean, I agree. From where I sit,
submission of bank statements.
From where I sit, the management should have been sued.
Yes,
but I don't know what went into. Which is why
if the management is sued, they will take the money from ECG.
Yeah, so
it comes back to the
consumer. That is protecting the consumer.
But you don't attack the wrong person.
No, it's not the wrong person. They are running a thin line here, which is why I said regulatory issues.
No, but you don't find them without hearing them. And this, what they've done in law, amounts to piercing the corporate veil. Yeah. But there are conditions to pierce the corporate veil. The conditions have not been met.
Well, Salom, that has generated a debate for you and I to have now. This is the first time it's happening. So I'm saying let's not really shoot PURC in the foot to say that this is what they've done and poo-poo all over what they've done. It's about time we really crack it down.
Very well.
Break it.
Let me speak to Kojo Poku, and of course Duncan Amoa is there. You have his bite before we move on from this. Kojo Poku, you have played in this space. I don't know what you think about the PURC ECG task. So Franklin says it's not worth our time, which is fine. The matter of the outages, your colleague, the Honorable Samuel Pai Ayepe,
yes,
Ayepe is saying that, I mean, he said it's not DUMSO. I know you may have a similar view, but it's maintenance, it's a few other things. And the point is that if you know that, one or two or three plants will be off-grid, and so that will automatically result in a shortfall. Why don't you plan for that shortfall in a manner that will also help us plan our lives by giving us a schedule? But this whole thing about, unplanned, intermittent outages, I mean, it's not helping anybody. Where do you stand?
Well, my brother, I don't know why you think I will hold a similar. I don't know why you think I will hold a similar.
Because it's well, no, now, if it were a civil society days, maybe.
You are reading from a script that obviously is not the right script. So why would I hold? Look.
All right, so you tell me. You are the expert. So you tell me.
Let me look. I'm an account. As I speak to you, I'm in Kumasi.
Okay.
DUMSO means when something goes off and come back on.
Okay.
Right? But you see, what I say is that in Ghana, from Kwame Nkrumah time till today, light has always been going off, and light will always go off because nobody can come in and assure Ghanaians that light will never go off. But you see, if I have somebody watching me who says that, oh, Bakujo, why are you arguing about the word DUMSO? It's a true word. You doom Kanye you DUMSO. I agree. But you see, the NDC narrative of DUMSO is not what everybody thinks it is. The NDC says that they solved DUMSO. So if somebody says that they solved something, it means something else. And in all platforms that I have been with members of the NDC, they've said countlessly that when you manage load, that is what DUMSO is. So when we are discussing, for the purpose of the conversation, we need to understand what we are discussing. Are we discussing load management, or are we discussing general light outages? So that is where, when my brother was saying that, well, it's not doom so. What he's trying to appreciate is that, yes, when you talk about general light outages, nobody will argue with that. But if we're talking about doom so in the NDC palace, it means something else. But look, let's move on.
Let me interrogate that for a while. I mean, if there is a shortfall, you plan for the shortfall so that consumers know what to do. So you bring a timetable. How different should that be?
Okay, so let me tell you something. Look, as we speak now, and again, my brother in the studio is doing a wonderful work. I think he should be the energy expert, not Kujopoku. And you see, the issue that he has explained very well is that what we have now is that we have enough installed capacity. Our demand, we can meet our demand because the capacity is there. Now, what happens in the peak periods and what happens in most times is that when you are going into a day or you are going into an evening, you do not know what the load demand on the grid is. It's only when that demand arrives that you realize that, I do not have enough on the grid to meet this demand, because at any point in time, the supply into the grid should match the demand into the grid so that the transmission will be at 50 hertz. So it balances out. When there are more demand on the grid than there is supply, that is when Gridco has to now immediately take out some of the BSPs to stabilize the grid. We have seen documents that goes to show that ECG have said, and Gridco has agreed, that sometimes they are giving ECG between 1 hour to 3 hour notice when these situations occur. So because we do not have a permanent situation, you see, in the past, we could give notices because we knew that whatever happens, we don't have the installed capacity in the country. So you know that you are going into next week, you are going into next month, you do not have the 500 megawatts that you need. So you plan extensively for that. But this is the situation where we do. Just that at the point when the demand rises, you do not have the supply. You will call on some of these companies, Asogli, can you ramp up? Asogli said, no, I can't because I have a problem. Okay, it's in the evening. Bill Power, can you give me more than this amount that you're giving me? Bill said, look, I can't because if I give you, I'll draft out my reserves and I don't want to draft out my reserves. So then at that point, you can't have anybody else coming on board. Then you now take out some of the supply, some of the demand on the line because you don't have the supply that will come on it. Under normal circumstances, as the demand increases, you call other machines to come on because they are the base loads and there are those that are not base loads, and you call them on when you have they are called the peaking plants. You call them to come on. When Gridco wants to call on all these peaking plants, some of them can come, some of them cannot come because of one problem or the other. That is why it's difficult to give a timetable. But look, I have said that I could be one of the first people to call for a timetable if it's practically feasible. But you see, there seems to be a political connotation because the NDC feels that the minute their timetable is given, it's an official admitting that doom so. What is in the name and what is in the timetable? You slept in darkness, I slept in darkness. We all know that yesterday there were some outages within Accra. And on the platforms that I'm on, people will post and say that, look, my light is off, my light is on. So we know the lights are off.
So give us a timetable so we plan our lives. That's all we're asking for.
Yes, but it's technically not feasible. That's the point I'm making. If it was, it would be given.
Very well. Let me speak to. Let me hear Duncan.
Salom, am I permitted to come in?
Yes. So Duncan, let me hear you on this.
I do think that we are playing, picky cherry with this power situation, and it's not good enough. On the same stretch, Kojo says, don't politicize it. Take the politics out of it. And then he will go back to say that, under the NDC, it was this. Under us, it is this. We are not able to technically assess to determine how much we have to knock off. That will bring you to something very fundamental called energy planning. If all these years we cannot do proper energy planning, then you wonder why people are even taking fat salaries in the first place. We started this energy sector conversation, particularly under this government, with that bit that said excess capacity, and the previous government had signed too many contracts, take or pay, and all of that. And we went to sleep. Selim, we went to sleep. The argument or conversation always was that somebody had saddled us with too much power. And I had always argued that in a sub-region that has a power pool, the West African power pool, that has a lot of need for power. Even if that was the case, that you are doing 5,000, your peak demand is around 2,800, sometimes you go to 3,000. What excess capacity meant was that you can almost always export something and get back some revenue. Yet, we sat and played politics with it. At the same period, the same government was embarking on something called One District, One Factory. Salom, you recall. Energy planning will tell you that every single factory you put up that will have to feed into your national grid will take some amount of power off the grid. And so if within a year you are able to commission 20 factories or 20 or 30 or 50, energy planning will tell you to plan for them so that their needs do not overburden your grid, within a year or two. We have gone through a lot of governmental programs and policies. We refused to do an audit, one, of our transmitters. Two, we refused to even increase the number of substations that would have to relay power to other parts of the country, such that now we have to plant Ameri in Ashanti region. Salom, energy travels at a speed of 231,000 kilometers per second. The entire stretch of Ghana does not cover that per second. And so if you had your relay systems, your power systems in place completely, what you could safely do is to transmit power from Boko to Accra in 1 second. You don't even need to have a power plant in Accra if everything is concentrated in Boko. We decided to play picky cherry. We decided to go to sleep. We decided to blame a former government whilst reneging on something fundamental called energy planning that should have kicked in the very moment we were, planting factories here and there. We were giving money to people to establish, steel factories, refineries, all of them. We were putting stuff all over the place. In the last 6, 7, 8 years, right? If you ask how much really have we planted into the energy mix by way of, generating, by way of even plants that have gone obsolete or old, how much we have put into the sector to get new plants. Salom, I am not sure you would find those answers coming forthright. The sad thing is that I am in darkness as of now. We would rather decide to play what NDC can do, what MPP has done. And the sad thing is I come home, my little boy has to sleep in darkness, sadly, because somebody has refused to work. And when you ask questions, you are told to go and rather have your own timetable. And the Honorable Ayipai is suggesting that, oh, that was a joke. We are not in a joking season. People's livelihoods are affected. You get to the office, there's no power. You can't do anything. You've wasted fuel. Fuel is already expensive. People are running cold store businesses, right? The cost to them is not funny. Energy planning would have told you that if I am shedding off 200 megawatts every evening, I should have a template. If Gridco comes to me 30 minutes to time to say that we cannot be able to give you about 300 megawatts, my template should be such that I can quickly inform all media outlets, right, that between this time and that time, we are unable to give you power. If you have to put off your fridges, your air conditioners, please put them off so that we don't turn it on and off and destroy your electrical appliances. How difficult is this? And yet, we are making it sound as though it is technically impossible to give people prior information. This I disagree completely with. Energy planning would not allow you to do these things. In Europe, in America, in parts of Africa, elsewhere, lights will go off. But the people are respected such that they are told, look, at 6 p.m., we may not have enough. So these areas you may go off. If you don't go off because we probably by some miracle, wonder, or some magic are able to give you power, oh la la, you are good to go. But where we refuse completely and blatantly indicate to people that we cannot provide you a tentative timetable that says that yesterday Taifa went off. So potentially, if there's a shortfall today, those of you at Kwabenya, you are likely to go off. So that I know that by 6 p.m., if I still have power, then I am lucky. If I don't have power, at least some communication has gone forth with. A template is not a difficult thing at all to manage. Yet, we suggest and tell Ghanaians that we can't give them anything. And you wake up, your air conditioning goes off, it comes back on, your fridge is going back on, off, if you had put on a washing machine, because you don't know what time power is coming, what time power is going off, your microwave, everything that you put on is at the risk of a certain, power challenge. I don't think that is a play matter for which anybody should suggest that the minister was playing. It cannot be. We should take Ghanaians serious. If we need to plan, give them a template to say that, look, potentially your area could go off on Tuesday morning between 6 a.m., 6 p.m. Let's give them that. Let's give them some minimum planning, some minimum respect. But all this conversation about somebody solved Dumso, somebody didn't solve Dumso, and my brother Kojo is saying that if the NDC had really solved it, we should not be here. If somebody solves something and within 5 years, you do not add to it, you will come back to that conversation the Honorable Ayife was introducing. Your reserve margin, your dependable capacity or dependable, whatever capacity, your install capacity. Your numbers are growing per the day. How much more are you adding to your reserve margin? How much more are you adding to your dependable capacity, your install capacity? If you don't add and you sit and play chess ball with it and suggest that somebody had oversigned power agreement, we had excess capacity, we had too much power. Where is the power at this point?
Very well.
Were we lied to?
Well, look, please, can I come in, Salom? I did not say that we cannot be here. Please, I did not say that we can't be here if NDC solved it. I only bring that scenario in to explain the meaning of Dumso.
Very well.
Correct.
That's fine.
I did not say that.
So that's corrected.
No, but Salam, if we begin to have
so it's a blame game I'm trying to discourage.
No, there can't be a blame game to this at all.
Yes,
but the cherry picking ought to be corrected. There's nothing like NDC's definition of Dumso. So if people start calling that let's have a dispassion, less partisan engagement, and now you start to say an NDC's definition of Dumso, that is out of context and loses the moral fiber of having that engagement.
I want to move the discussion
right.
forward.
But in any case, right, close to a decade of being in power, what have you done? So you don't have planning purposes. So if you know where to switch off, but don't know where to.
But he just talked about some twin city.
Yeah, but if you don't know where, if you know when to switch,
and the movement of the Ameri plant.
But if that hasn't happened, so we are talking about what is happening now.
My
brother.
But moving a plant at 35 is an achievement. At 35 million is an achievement.
No, but that they dispute.
Mr. Duncan, I know he's an executive director
of COPEC. It speaks for all of us, consumers,
including myself.
Yes.
But when you are talking and you do not appreciate it, these are two major
political parties. He's just concerned about the problem.
Exactly.
And the fact that we don't seem to be
as if
wanting to solve
is
the problem.
not doing anything and an attempt to solve the problem. Just I've mentioned.
But we need to see results.
Twin City.
No, he's saying that you don't spend 7 years in power. And bring us
when
here.
We came,
and
when
indeed,
in terms of
you are told us
about
about
capacity, we had enough water to export.
1D, 1F.
We had enough water to export.
1D,
you know about whom we should
1D, 1F.
So now you don't
because you added industrialization.
Unnecessarily.
Oh, unnecessarily?
Yes.
Seriously?
Wait, at the point in time, I'll take a break. I'll take a break. But
the cost you left.
So why are we in crisis if we added unnecessarily? Why are we in crisis?
As we speak,
the economy has grown to absorb everything.
No, we are adding because we are looking at the cheaper way.
We were forward way
of
adding. But what is there? Give it to us.
Yes, so if you look at
just stop this politics,
I think I'll take a break. But wait, let me speak to Franklin. Honorable, your microphone is off. Your microphone is off. Honorable, your microphone is off. Yes. Yes.
Salam,
Kojo?
Can I please answer that? It's very unfortunate when people ask that question that how can we be in crisis if we had excess capacity?
So I give you a few seconds to clarify that because of your peculiar expertise. Yes.
In 2017, look, as a country, we grow at 250 megawatts a year. Every year, we grow at 250 megawatts.
Okay.
So if in 2017, somebody says that we have 2,500 megawatts that we don't need in 2017, and we are paying for it, and we have grown in the last 7 years, we have grown by 1,750 megawatts. Why would somebody ask that? Why are we here if we had excess
What energy planning have we done in 7 years, Kojoko?
But 1,750 should still give you some excess.
All that is called capacity.
1,600 should still give you some excess. Wait. You know, I will take a break. But I wanted to hear from Franklin on some other thing. So Franklin, I mean, the Ameri plant, so yeah, all of that happened. The plant is now being moved from Western region to the Ashanti region. What does that mean, or what does that bring to the problem as people in Ashanti and Kumasi have complained about? Of course, they say their situation is very bad. What will moving the plant from Western region to the Ashanti region mean for the crisis the people in Ashanti or Kumasi have been complaining about?
Well, maybe they want it for touristic purposes. Otherwise, as Duncan has explained, I don't understand why you're moving these modular items simply because you want to show that the power is closer to the people. I don't know, maybe it's but you see, look, this whole conversation about planning, essentially what Duncan talks about, it's actually the issue here, really. Because when I heard you say that, oh, we don't know when ECG has to receive the notice and then whatever they have to do. If this has been happening consistently for the past 3-4 months, you must be planning properly. And for crying out loud, even South Africa, which perennially is in doom so, now has a timetable they share almost every now and then. Whether it's for 2 hours, 3 hours, they give you a timetable. And I can show it to you here, but I have it on my machine here. The City of Tshwane. They tell you they give you a timetable and tell you that no load shedding is coming. It's happening within the next 2-3 hours. But we can do this. So once we've observed a scenario, just give people some respect and then give them a timetable. If you're not described that doing so, we don't care. But just give us I think it helps.
Very well. I want to understand could you help me? I want to understand what the movement of the Ameri plant to Kumasi will do. If the plant could be anywhere and power could be transmitted to anywhere, why do we have to move that to Kumasi at such a huge cost? Let me understand that, please.
My brother, and again, it is not, you see, and some of these dog whistles, I really don't, what huge cost? Do we know how much it costs to move it?
No, wait, let's not talk about the cost first. The cost.
Do we know how much? Have you seen the cost?
No, we understand that the cost as communicated.
That is a propaganda message.
As communicated.
And when I say people are saying, why am I bringing the NDC? No, but let me land. No, please.
Edward Bauer was on face-to-face. Edward Bauer was on face-to-face, and he made mention of the fact that the cost was around 35 million
no,
US
but
dollars.
It's not true.
And he quoted a deputy managing director of VRA, Chief Executive of VRA.
Salom,
yes,
it's the NDC that have put that word out there.
So how much did it cost then? Do you know how much it cost us to do that?
We don't know. We will wait for VRA. We don't know, but we will wait for VRA. But
you see, if you don't tell us, then you allow us to speculate. That is a problem.
I am not a government official, Salom.
No, but you are a key player in the government's energy sector.
Salom,
yes,
let me land. Look, I want VRA to come out and tell us the cost. But you see, when you're asking me a question, you are educating Ghanaians. You are saying that is it necessary to move it at such a huge cost? Meanwhile, we don't know the cost. So why are you saying huge cost? No. But let me go to answer your question.
Yes, but let me just clarify that we had a member of the Energy and Mines Committee of Parliament, Edward Bauer, appear on one of our programs, face-to-face with Omar Sanda Amadu, and he put out that figure and he quoted authority. He quoted the VRA for telling them that
2022.
No, yes, so telling them that when at a parliamentary committee meeting.
Hold on. That was when the authority appeared before them in 2022. That they wanted to give it to miscellaneous. And the miscellaneous people, and they were questioning the sole sourcing. Today, we all know that was done by VRA themselves. So we don't know the cost.
Very well.
So chances are it could even be higher.
Or less.
Well, it doesn't matter, but we don't know it. The fact that we don't know it, let's not break it into this.
Wait, I'll come to you, but clarify the Kumasi movement for me. So now let's drop the issue of the cost and let's deal with the rationale.
There are two conversations. One, strategic reasons. As a country, we cannot have all our generation at the coastal lines. It's dangerous.
Okay.
So for strategic reasons, we need to have some generation in the middle belt, in the northern part. Now we all talk about all these transmission losses. We now have 5% transmission losses. If you move the generation closer to the people, you now save that transmission losses. You save that transmission losses. Now, when you now spend money in doing all these substations and all these BSPs, Duncan will say that power travel at a certain speed. What he doesn't seem to understand
1 kilometers
is
per
that
second.
when those wires get older, and at that speed, the power dissipates. So when you have the power closer to the people, there is stability of voltage. Today in Ashanti region, you have people who are getting 215, 218 in terms of the voltage instead of 240. When you now have generation which has come in through the K1 TPP, the quality of power within the middle belt will improve. Now, not only are we looking at only K1 TPP coming here, there is an enclave that has been built. And with that enclave, other companies are coming to now come and situate their plant in here. The cost of moving was not just transporting some generators from one point to the other. It was to establish an enclave in the middle part of the country, which strategically, it makes sense. Technically, it makes sense. So yes, you might disagree that why are we relocating? But it has been on the drawing board since 2014. When the technical people have advised that we should not have all our generating capacity. And let me make this point. You know, as a country, we have never really planned where we situate our plants. A company comes in and say, oh, I'm going to generate electricity. I want to put that home. I'm going to generate electricity. I want to put it here. We've never really strategized and created these enclaves like we have in Takoradi and like we have in Kumasi now. So it's important. And if you see the video of what VRA has done, okay, you see where the cost, when we get to know, has gone into. So, but please, let's understand that we shouldn't predicate that thing where huge cost and all this. And these are NDC propaganda.
Very well. Could you, so yes, so I all right. I know we could go on and on with this because this has been go to
This also right.
1 second.
We know the deputy minister in his presentation on behalf of the minister said that the cost of moving the plant from Accra to Kumasi cost 31 million Ghana cedis. It's not about dollars, sorry. And he said that transmitting the power, generating the power in Takoradi, and transmitting it to Kumasi have also cutbacks of about 4 million.
No, but that's still not a clear justification.
For what period?
For a period of every month.
No, but did you
every
read?
Month. Yes.
Did you read the report?
There was a news item.
I need to take a break and move to the next topic.
Per month. So looking at it, it's better we move.
Relocate.
We relocate. Governments in the near future is looking at bringing in another distribution company. We know we have Northern Electricity. So if they have their NETCO have their own generation power at maybe thermally. Then in the middle belt too, we have another company having their generation power. So what they did, as what Mr. Safrapoku just said, what they did is not about moving the plant, the turbine plant. It is a whole.
The substation.
Yes, substation.
So you talk about strategic
transmitting even power. The pipelines from Abuadze to Kumasi. We're also going to give some domestic supply of gas.
Point one, yes.
More important.
The real justification in all of these issues where which could have been prevented is this. Now, 31 million spent. Let's granted that was spent, right? Could 31 million has been spent creating a new plant? We've not been told that. So the cost-benefit analysis
This is
has
what a
not
new
been...
plant. Nobody said
No,
a new
no,
plant.
no, we're
We
not
said
saying a
living.
new
We
plant.
are
So
talking
you live and
about-
marry
this is
where
what
it
we are
is.
talking about.
No, he's saying that even if you live and marry there,
Where?
could
Yeah.
you have used a $31
And
million
31 million to create to get a
build
plant.
a
No,
new
no,
plant?
you see, when you say moving the plant alone, we are talking about
The
housing.
substation.
No, it doesn't matter.
The
That's not the
substation.
So he's saying that what he's asking is,
that's not what I'm
could
talking
you
about.
have used
Moving,
No, that is not what I'm talking about. Let's not confuse
by
you.
having
I
understand
take a
that.
break
cables
now.
I
and all
understand
that.
that.
I take a honorable. I take a break now. We'll return and then deal with the matter of the train accident. Thank you so much, Kojo and Poku. Always a pleasure to have you. Dan Kanamwa, pleasure to have you. We'll return and switch topic. Don't go away. Yeah, welcome back. This is the big issue. A few of your messages that have come through quickly. Now, Kweku Accra says, "Hi, Salom. Doomsaw simply means lights off and on. There is no need to struggle over or for any explanation. They have failed miserably to give us constant power. My lights are off right now. Stop putting dust into our eyes and just accept your inefficiency and make corrections." That's Kweku speaking to government. Dennis in Kumasi says, please tell him," that's talking about Kojo Poku, "tell him the power is not stable in Kumasi. I just returned from Kumasi." Of course, Kojo Poku says he is in Kumasi right now. Of course, he hasn't said the power is stable there, but he's trying to say that it's a real situation that they are trying to solve. Jones Adoboy in La says, "Good morning, Salom. The vilification and name-calling and insult that was rained on JDM in his quest to solve the energy issues, you have the same shameless faces today renaming without adding a single megawatt to the current power. Probably it is God who is punishing their liars. For PURC, the least said about them, the better. Ghanaians are not angry enough." Now, let's move to something else, not hopefully not political and not heated as this one. The government is been trying to improve our transportation system, transporting cargo, etc. And so there was this whole idea of improving our rail system. So there was the Tema to Mpakadan rail line, which was constructed very beautifully. And then a number of trains were imported from Poland or so to be on that line, which will help transport cargo, etc., from the southern part to the middle belt and even to the northern part of the country. Mpakadan is where this particular one ends. So 2 or 3 days ago, there was a test run or test drive of one of the trains. For some reason, a certain man went to park a Kia truck on the rail at 0.76 kilometers. Nobody knew where he came from. Nobody knew how he got there. The train could not stop, went to hit the Kia, and part of the train have been damaged. Fortunately, nobody was injured, nobody died, and they said the damage to the train has not been very massive, so they can just deal with it. Of course, this raised a lot of concerns. The man was taken to the court the day after, and he pleaded guilty to 3 of the 4 charges, and was convicted and jailed. Now, people think that the situation is not normal. Indeed, the minister himself, very unhappy, the Minister for Railway Development, Peter Mewu, soon after the event, tweeted or put on his Facebook page a picture of the Kia ride. If the picture is there, can we put it on the screen? The Kia vehicle or truck across the rail line. And he says, so there you have it. That's a Kia truck. I don't know how he got there. I don't know where he passed to get there. And I don't know where it was going. Peter Mewu says of the circumstance you see there, he said it's unfortunate, irresponsible, and unpatriotic, obviously referring to the truck driver. The truck driver, we understood, reported himself to the police, processed for court, and now has been jailed. Let's watch this particular report on the happenings, and we'll come back and have some discussion on this particular matter.
In a press release issued by the Railway Development Ministry, it was revealed that despite the immediate application of the emergency braking system, the train was unable to come to a complete stop before colliding with a vehicle. The release noted that the vehicle was unmanned. It's not designated as an authorized level crossing. There were no injuries sustained by passengers on the train or bystanders. However, there was minor damage to the driver's cab section of the train. The incident has been promptly reported to the police, and investigations are currently underway to ascertain the circumstances surrounding the incident. The diesel multiple unit DMU involved has been moved to the workshop for further assessment and necessary repairs. The ministry assured the public that safety remains its utmost priority, and it is committed to ensuring the continued safe operation of its railway system. Speaking on Eyewitness News on Citi FM, the Minister of Railway Development, Peter Amewu, said engineers are currently working on the damaged train.
On approaching kilometer 76, a Kia truck passed right across the rail line, stationary. And, it was in a curve. So as the train approached, the driver tried to apply the static brake to enable the train stop. But because it was very close to the Kia truck, unable to stop and therefore ran straight into it. The engineers are currently working on it. The train has been brought back to the workshop. The Kia driver himself has reported himself to the police station. But the conduct of the driver as of now cannot be well explained. And the good thing is that all the passengers and the inspectors on board the train, of course, none of them got injured. And we are currently in the process of assessing the damage to the train. Technically, I would say the train is still in very good form. Nothing in terms of electrical or the engine has been disturbed, except the frames that got slightly damaged.
All right, that's a report of the interesting incident that occurred at kilometer 76 or 0.76 on the Tema-Mpakadan rail line. And it's quite a bizarre situation, if you ask me. But, I mean, this is where we are. My guest on this segment of the program is Khalid Sharif, economist, assistant professor of financial management and member of the NDC 2024 campaign team. Samuel Ayepe.
Yes, you've got my name correct now.
I hope I keep it. Samuel Ayepe, honorable, yes. Former MP for Ayen Suano in the Eastern region. Franklin Kujo, president in Mani Africa. Hopefully his solar hasn't gone off, so he's still with us. Dr. Nanaya Wakwada is executive secretary for Bureau of Public Safety. These are my guests for this particular segment. I started with you, Honorable Samuel Ayepe. Yes, good thing government is trying to do to improve the transportation system, rail, etc. So we're all looking to see this work out well. How did you receive this news that the test run was ongoing and all of a sudden there was a truck parked in the middle of the road and all of that happened? How did it hit you?
Very hard. I was sad and shocked. Why? Because I've been part of this exercise when I was in Parliament and chairman of Transport Committee. I traveled to Honorable, the former Minister for Railway Development, Dugati, to China, first to Czech Republic, to see whether we can get these high-speed trains to Ghana. After Czech, we went to China. We started the project, and this Poland issue also came in. Okay. So the China one is still in the pipeline. Very soon it will come out to it. I sat in a committee or chair committee to approve the loan agreement that saw from the continuation of the Tema-Mpakadan. And so hearing these news were very sad for me. Our transport system, 95% is on road transport. The remaining 5% is being shared among railway, aviation, and marine. That is on sea transport. So bringing in Winway to at least increase the 5% and reduce the pressure on road was good news for all of us. And we all wanted to get things done properly. So when I heard that there's a new high-speed train that is going to travel at 160 kilometers per hour and run on diesel engine with fully air-conditioned coaches, we're all very happy. And the train that was brought in is a standard gauge train. You know, we have the narrow gauge train and the standard gauge train. The first time that we are going to have a standard gauge train at that long distance. Don't forget that on the Volta Lagos, we have a 300-meter bridge across the train, the first of its kind in the whole of Africa. I think even in South Africa also that they have such a bridge that travels on train bridge that goes about the distance about 300 meters across the river. So it's on its own, it's a tourist attraction. So we're happy to see such a beautiful things being done. Just for us to wake up and say that this damage has caused to the train. But for me, sentencing the driver to 6 months in prison didn't end there. There might be proper investigation to find out what happened. There are other stakeholders. You have the Railway Development Authority. They have some questions to answer because they are the regulators. They are to ensure the safety. They are to regulate the Ghana Railway Transport Company Limited. So they have to come to answer some questions. What happened? Why is it that they were not able to do proper surveillance on the track to notice whether there's an obstacle on the lines before the train was moved onto the line? We have to find out. That's the first question I'll ask. Ghana Airport Company also has some few questions to answer. So there should be proper...
Ghana Airport Company.
Sorry, Ghana Railway Company Limited. Yeah, so for me, I think we shouldn't end there. Nobody should sit and say that once the driver has been sentenced, it ends it. Also, if you look at the pictures that we've seen so far, you ask yourself, it looks as if somebody just picked the track and put it on the track. Because you can see wheels behind it and in front of it. So when it came, people were saying that it was Photoshop. I don't know whether you heard that this is Photoshop. How can a track go and position? And you see how it was positioned. The middle of the track was positioned on the line. So it looked very exactly. So for me, I think we should not end it here. We must do proper investigation.
Someone is telling me that the trains the previous administration brought in 2016 were standard gauge trains.
Yes, I'm not saying the first time that we have standard gauge train. The one from Kodukrum, Takrady to Kodukrum, it's a standard gauge train.
One sending me from Takrady.
No, but,
yes.
But I don't know why Honorable's concerned, from where you've played a critical role in all of this, and my question to him is that why the concern should be not about the gauges. I'm wondering why in modernity, after signing up to all of these sustainability initiatives, you're going to sign up for diesel-powered engines.
Oh yes, we have to start from somewhere because availability of diesel, in Ghana is very high, and also
so you're talking about emissions, rather, and
yes, we can go.
And the cost benefit of that.
Yes, as we move on, we can get electronics one as well. But to start, we must come with diesel engine. We must get in charging points on the tracks, of which I would say we haven't done yet. So the most important thing is to get the diesel one. People were talking about this new line has no level crossing. When we're talking about level crossing, the situation where the train, the vehicles runs on the train tracks, we don't have, or it's either we have the underpass or the overpass. So they should go and have a look at the underpass. It should be 4.5 meters to 5 meters. If it is below 4 meters, then they should go and do whether they can do some scooping to increase the height so that vehicle, because listening to the driver's owner, the owner of the vehicle, he says the driver tried using the underpass when he was come, he couldn't, and they showed some scratches on the top of the underpass. So if it is not 4.5 or 5 meters as a prescribed height for vehicles, all vehicles, they should go have a look at it if they can do some. Maybe they were trying to take some levels, so they decided not to go too high at the level crossing. If it happens like that, you scoop to down there to get the heights So if they haven't done that, it's not too late. They can go and look if there's some scooping can done to get about 0.5 meters to add it to get about 4.5 or 5. So that
what feedback did the railway authority get from the users of the place? So this driver's owner,
I'm of the view
owner of the
that
car was saying
because
that
the trains weren't in,
so they were
there
using the
was
tracks.
not much attention on the clearance on the tracks, the lines. Now that the trains are in, I think that they have intensified their inspection on the line. And I think looking at
given as a test run, shouldn't they have gone? Shouldn't anybody have checked the line, or they never anticipated?
They should, because
expected, in this country we see rail lines.
I inspected the lines when I was chairman. My committee and myself, we went to inspect the line. The company, the contractor that construct the line, they have something that I call the maintenance story on the track. That Ghana Railway Company Limited should have gone for it and then try it on the line to see clear. Apart from that, there should have been some form of sensitization. The communities along the line, they go there, address them, the trains are in, be careful, don't be crossing the line. I don't think all these things were done. If they were done, then somebody was trying to be stubborn by not listening to all the announcements and the information that were given to them and all that. But we must also look at this. I happen to be workshop manager for Metro Mass Transit when the Kufuor administration decided to revamp OSA and make it Metro Mass. At the Tudu station where we're running Tudu, Ashaman, and Tema, some people that we suspected to be our competitors will put nails in garden eggs or tomato and put it under the tires of the buses when they are packed and loading the passengers. So when the vehicle moves, the tires will just step on the nail, punch the hole on the motorway, boom, they'll call you. So almost every day we're having challenges on flat tires on the motorway. So we decided to set up a committee to find out. Because the tires, we're using very good tires that we shouldn't have such challenge. Then we set up security, we informed the police, and we are able to arrest some people who were putting nails under our buses simply because they want to discourage people from boarding Metro Mass buses. When I was a committee, we visited Ghana transport company at Akosombo. That is, how do you call it, the Akosombo. There's a company in Akosombo that transports fuel from Akosombo to Bupe. But they have to pump the fuel from Tema to Akosombo through a fuel pump lines before they transport it from Akosombo to Bupe. On the Panto, there's a bulk Panto that transports the fuel. At a point in time, we thought that some people who happen to be the competitors of the Voter Transport Company Limited were cutting the pipelines so that they cannot pump the fuel to Akosombo for the company to transport it to Bupe, so that these bulk trucks that drives on our road and industrial roads will have the field day and then transport the fuel to Bupe and beyond. So for me, I don't want to rule out the fact that maybe some saboteurs who don't want this rail transport system also to come into the stream will sabotage the system, the company in this way. That is why I am of the view that there should be proper investigation. We must find out what happened, whether something went wrong or it is just mere coincidence that have caused this. When we do proper investigation, my brother, I think we can prevent future occurrences. It is something that some of us were even thinking of suburban train system. This one is from Tema to Pakadam and beyond. There's a need. We can also have a rail system from maybe Accra Central to Circle to Amasamai, and also to how do you call it, Tema, Ashamai, Kaswa. This is suburban train system that can reduce the pressure on the road. Very well. So I think there's a need for us to do proper investigation to know what happened.
Let me talk to Dr. Nanaya Akwada, Executive Secretary for Bureau of Public Safety, on phone. Khalid is here, and he will have enough time to deal with the matters. Doc, welcome to the program. Bureau of Public Safety, this obviously should catch your attention. What's your thinking around this when you first saw or heard it? I mean, this is a real case of public safety.
Well, good morning, Salom. It's been a while, and good morning to the rest of your panelists and your viewers. Well, I think it's a sad state of affairs. There are opportunities in here for us to improve. There's no doubt about it. I believe that for a railway that has not been in use for some time now, perhaps we could have done greater due diligence. Advanced surveillance should have been on this route. And I heard one of your panelists mention also that we could have done some sensitization along the rail lines. All this, we failed. I am not surprised about it because it feeds into the general indiscipline within the transportation sector. Okay? People know that they will get away with violating the law. They know that if they take actions that pose risk to the public or the traveling public, they will still get away with it. So we have all these things playing out. I am sad because the railway is more like a new sector that gives us opportunity to grow. And if we are taking off in this manner, we might feed the public with the wrong feelings. So that even when we come to speed with the reality, the public will shy away from patronizing, railway services. So it's something that really, really calls us to give greater attention to it.
I see. How about people who think that this happening will rather sensitize people more? Because we know that in this part of the world or in the country, we dry kokonte and cloth and things on rail lines. Now, given this accident, the discussion has grown and everybody is talking about it. So next time, you are not supposed to be anywhere near the rail track. How about that?
Well, I know, Salom, you are just playing the devil's advocate. But trust me, not many people listen to radio, not many people listen to news like you think, okay? Especially on matters of development, in relation to safety like that. Sometimes they don't always get to make the news. So we must get the authorities, the relevant authorities, to do the needful education, mass sensitization, enforcement of the rules that govern the sector, and engineering. We must not miss these three key aspects of, driving road safety into proper public safety. We must educate the public, the affected public, the traveling public, users, and everybody that rail lines are not for XYZ. We must engage communities along the rail lines and let them know what poses a danger to themselves and to those in the train and the cost that it brings to the state. And then, where it is not possible, we must have engineering, put in place engineering methods or engineering measures to ensure that it is even not possible this track or other human beings or individuals to access the rail lines in the first place. These are the things that will guarantee, or if you like, give us a decent sense of assurance for safety.
I see. So we are grateful for this. So moving forward, I mean, go to the airport area. There are rail tracks which are not, and other places which may not be in use, but they've not been decommissioned. They are still there, which gives people a certain thinking that they could do whatever they want to do with them. So the call is a bigger call to sensitize people and all of that. How should that be done? If they don't listen to radio, they don't watch video, etc. The officials should be going from community to community along rail lines and making this known to them. How exactly and practically can this be done?
You know, Salam, from my experience in this country, now when I'm making recommendations that I know would draw heavily on taxpayers' money, I fear. Because there are people in authority who would take advantage of such recommendations to plunge their hands into the public. But if we are going to do this, definitely it will cost some money. We must be efficient. Look, there's no reason why this incident could not have been prevented, and subsequent ones cannot be prevented. Today, AI is around. Of course, it's been around for many years now, but it's catching up a lot faster in these times. It is not a creation for special events. It is a development for daily use. So we can leverage on AI. We can. Why? MPN has ringtones. Telecel has ringtones. All the networks have ringtones. Why is it not possible that government will say, look, for those people who don't sit by TV, who don't sit by radio to listen to the news, at least they make a phone call. So why don't we change some of those ringing tones and even make them into short, snippets of public education on railways in various languages? That is possible.
Very well.
Okay? And even with having an advanced system to surveil some of these rail lines, because look, we know this is not an advanced country. We still have children who are loitering all over the place. So we can deploy drones, deploy flyers into communities and get results. AI gets results. And we are not too far away from AI.
All right. Very well. Thanks so much, Doc. Nana Akwada, Executive Secretary, Bureau.
Thank you, Salam. And please give me a call sometime. Let's talk some more.
Very well. That we'll do that. Thanks so much, Doc. All the best to you. You also Doc, but your Doc doesn't appear here. Dr. Khalid.
Well, it's fine. I'm not fussy about
about
titles.
Yes, you're thinking about all of this. Muhammad has spoken about this. Muhammad thinks, or he questions the test run. Says there was no test track inspection, etc., and he thinks it's strange.
Well, it's a very bizarre test run, the most bizarre probably I've ever come across. Because, I mean, looking at what has happened, as Honorable himself, it does look like someone lifted it. I don't know whether a crane did or a helicopter did and plucked it onto the rail track. But the interesting thing is, and I did agree with, because those were the concerns that were running through my head, because trying to, as it may, encourage the public to patronize rail system in and of itself is an uphill task. So if we have this already happening in a test run, it tends to sort of, as it may, instill a fear in people who already probably are train phobia, are not, buying into the idea of trains because they are either laggards or they are not really enjoying it, or they enjoy their cars robust. So I think that more needs to be done, more specifically to do, because I was waiting to, see a regulatory statement of a sort come from the Ghana Railway Development Authority. That hasn't been forthcoming, and I thought that as from a regulatory perspective, safety resides within this authority. And if these things don't happen, what it tells us is that the very regulator that is meant to ensure that both businesses within the rail sector, consumers of the rail sector services are protected, is not probably up in doing its job very well. And when this also feeds into that attitude, then what it tells us is that where we are looking to lift the progress of our railway network, we may not be able to achieve that. But fundamental questions to ask. The swift nature in which the driver was jailed, for me, again, is very questionable.
No, but there's a way the legal system
I know. But
no, they take him to court.
Court, yes.
And he pleads guilty.
He pleads guilty, which
so
is fine.
So that's the end.
That's what I'm saying. The swiftness to wait, because most often than not, you have people not, some delays would have been made. And as you know, our social system, people have tried to...
But he couldn't have been in detention for more than 48 hours.
All of those counts, right?
Yes.
But just look at how swift things happened within that time. And again, regulators and such happenings shouldn't allow us to even infer, right, as to some of these.
So even though they could have gone to court the following day, because of things you are saying, they should have waited for the next day.
No, I'm not saying they should wait for the next day, right?
When
road accidents happen or similar issues.
No, he pleaded guilty, so there was nothing against him.
Yeah, so also he was so quick again to plead guilty.
No, but he's done. He's done. His cause. What were the charges?
I understand all of this. No, I understand all of this. I'm just playing the devil's advocate.
That have been jailed does not mean that we should stop investigating.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because what has happened, a lot of investigations needs to go into it. Now, in terms of the investigations, who is the owner of the vehicle, right? Is the vehicle roadworthy? These are all data or information that should have been out there from the DVLA. Is the vehicle insured? If it's insured, is it third party or comprehensive?
I think those details are available.
But
it's not public.
It's not public information. They should be, obviously.
So there will be a report.
There will be a report, and all of this should have been coming.
Maybe whether the train itself have been insured.
Insured. The train is. This is where I'm coming in. So because
insurance,
there's a big insurance industry that
can get money to
repair it. So where is the source of the repairs coming from? That's why I'm asking all of these questions as to whether the vehicle is even third party insured or comprehensive insured. So now you look at it also. It's just like aircraft.
So just wrap up for me.
Yeah. So like aircraft where you have a black box when there's an accident, which they can go in to really determine what it is. Even though prima facie you could see that it's the cost of the vehicle is this. Does the train in and of itself have an on-train data recorder? If it does, what is it telling us?
That is why we have these pictures.
Yes, that's why we had these pictures. That's why I'm asking that the regulatory authority ought to be seen to be playing that role. Now, are there safety barriers on these tracks that we have? Are there surveillance?
So I think
surveillance in terms of CCTVs and all of these. Communication is key. Yeah. So if all of this had happened, for me, what it throws to the eyes of the public
cameras on the phone.
Yes,
on the train.
On the train, yeah. But what about the tracks in terms of surveillance, in terms of engagements, communications, and safety? So if these are not happening, or barriers and safety lights, if these are not existent and haven't been revealed by the test run, again, it erodes public confidence.
Very well.
On the real
Franklin, okay, no, Franklin is gone. All right.
We have a system whereby. Even in Ghana, we have it here. Cameras that can see 2 kilometers left, 2 kilometers right on our highways now. Some of our highways. So they should try and get them on the tracks. Because if the train driver can see that 2 kilometers ahead of me, there's an obstacle, definitely he can apply his emergency.
My concern is the surveillance. What is the surveillance system like? You would know better. Yeah. Because the surveillance is very key.
Yes.
So imagine that a train got broken in the middle of a track. Just as this happened, what does surveillance tell us?
And in the case that we are going to have more than one train, they are going to move but there should be a system whereby they will
every unfortunate situation brings some positive.
So I just hope that the positive.
We are fortunate that nobody died. Actually, there has been some damage.
Very well. Thanks so much.
So nobody died, and we are going to learn a lot from this accident.
Honorable Samuel Ayepay, let's see you more often. Thanks so much for coming.
When you invite,
Dr. Khalid Sharif, Economist, Assistant Professor of Financial Management, NDC campaign team member. Thanks so much for coming. Dr. Nanaya Akwada, Executive Secretary, Bureau of Public Safety. Thanks so much for your time. Franklin Kuju as well. We thank you so much for being with us. This is how we conclude today's edition of the program. My name is Selom Adunu. Have a good afternoon.